I'm going to enable Anna Petrie to make a local recording. Super. And I'm going to start to read the script. This is a meeting of the Town of Lunenburg Conservation Commission. I'm Bob Pease. I'm currently the chair of the commission. I'm going to read the introductory script. In accordance with the requirements of the open meeting law, please be advised that this meeting is being audio-video recorded. The agenda lists all the topics which may be discussed at the meeting and those reasonably anticipated by the chair. Votes may be taken as a result of these discussions. Not all items listed may in fact be discussed, and other items not listed may also be brought up for discussion to the extent permitted by the open meeting law. Please address all comments to the chair. This meeting is being held by Zoom. The Zoom code is 834-3042-3637, and the passcode is 406-418. Mute these people who are talking.
Darling. I know what's going on. Did you get it back to where it was? Come off.
The Zoom link may be found on the agenda. The agendas for these meetings, all town meetings, are posted on the town calendar. If you go to the town calendar, there's actually a hot link right in the agenda that you can just right click on, and it'll bring you right into Zoom. I would ask, we're up to 41 participants. I'd ask everyone to please keep themselves muted. If you want to participate, I'll call for public comment and public input. At that time, please raise your hand and I'll call on you, and you can unmute yourself. And when you're done talking, I'd appreciate it if you would mute yourself again. Otherwise, everyone is listening to whatever is going on in the background at your house or your private conversations, and they're all being recorded for posterity forever. Are there any announcements from members of the commission?
Mr. Chairman, before we went to that, I wondered if we wanted to do a roll call.
Oh, thank you so much. That's an outstanding point, and I forgot all about that. I'm Bob Pease. I'm the chair. Rich Birsch.
Present.
Jeff Viviano will not be with us. He's working. Katie Childs.
Here.
Mike LaRouche.
Here.
Mary Wilson.
Here.
Rich Tremblay.
Present.
And Anna Petrie is our conservation administrator. And I'm assuming, even though she didn't say so, that she can hear us and we can hear her.
I am here, yes. Sorry.
Excellent. Thank you so much. It's my understanding we have no minutes tonight to approve. So we'll take and we'll put those on the next agenda. I forgot to ask for public comments from members of the public. Do any members of the public have any public comment? Seeing none, we will launch into our first appointment, which is Hickory Hills Lake Management Plan Pre-Treatment Report, DEP number 2091266. Dominic, are you here to represent Hickory Hills Lake and present this?
I am, Mr.
And would you
Chairman.
like
Thank
to
you.
share your screen?
I can.
All right, let's do it. Well, let me first enable screen sharing. Let's see. Okay, I enabled screen sharing. Take it away.
So again, my name is Dominic Maringolo. I'm a project manager, environmental engineer with Solitude Lake Management. I'm here on behalf of the Hickory Hills landowners to present the commission with our treatment plan for this year. As you know, the lake was treated in 2020 with the fluridone herbicide to manage fanwort. Since that time, in 2021 and 2022, the folks from the lake have diligently been hand pulling regrowth as it's appeared in the lake to try to basically capitalize on the reduction made by the treatment and try to stay ahead of the fanwort moving forward. So last year, through the course of last year, the hand pulling team and the directors basically have identified 4 areas of the lake, which you can see on the screen. These 4 areas is where they're seeing kind of the heaviest fanwort regrowth, and it's really in those particular areas it's becoming dense enough where it is really requiring a lot of effort in those areas. It's getting to the point where hand pulling really isn't able to keep up with the growth in those areas. It's taking away from being able to focus on other pioneering kind of regrowth areas. So the decision was made to move forward with the treatment of these 4 areas. They total 15 acres, and the treatment will be conducted with the flumioxazin herbicide, which is known to many by its original brand name, which is Clipper. Currently, we're using a similar same active ingredient product called Flumigard SC, which is a liquid version of the herbicide. But again, it's a herbicide that's approved by EPA and the state. And we do have a state DEP permit for this treatment. So the idea would be to use the herbicide in these specific areas to reduce the growth again to a level where we can tackle these areas moving forward with herbicides, and also be able to readjust the resources to other areas of the lake. The treatment is scheduled for June 15th, pending your approval. The plan is to treat these 4 areas with 200 parts per billion of the flumioxazin herbicide. Treatment will be applied from an airboat subsurface application. Onboard GPS will be used to make sure that we're applying the herbicide in these areas shown on the map. Treatment tracks of the application will be recorded on the GPS. Areas affected will be posted beforehand. The only labeled restriction for this herbicide is irrigation for 5 days. So we will post the affected areas to ask people just to stay out of those areas on the day of treatment as an extra precaution, and then the irrigation restriction until June 21st. So again, I think this in the ongoing management of fanwort in the lake, I think this is a well-timed and necessary effort. So I would welcome any questions the commission may have, and certainly happy to answer.
Thank you very much, Dominic. Any comments or questions from commissioners? Are there any comments or questions? Oh, Richard Bursch. Go ahead, Rich.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Hey, Dominic, just a couple quick questions.
Sure.
I believe, if memory serves, when we did the first treatment, we stopped the water from going over the dam.
Yeah, Jesus, goes back a few years, but I believe the lake was lowered slightly. So that again was for the fluridone herbicide that we used in 2020, which is a very long, requires a very long contact time. So this flumioxazin herbicide is more rapid acting, so there wouldn't be any need to do that for this treatment.
Okay. And how do you measure 200 parts per billion in the water column?
So it's based on the label. The label tells us exactly how much of the product to put in to get 200 parts per billion per acre based on the average depth the treatment areas. So basically following the label, we measure we do each treatment area separately. We have the area of each area, we have the acreage of each area and the average depth. So using the label, determine the amount of concentrate herbicide. We put that in the tank, dilute it with lake water, and then apply that volume within that area, and then we move on to the other 3 areas.
Okay. How tall is the fanwort in those areas now?
So we did go out on May 17th to do a kind of a pre-treatment survey. We were finding varying lengths of plants. I know a couple of the plants we pulled up were only like 6 inches tall, but there was a couple other plants that were probably 2.5 feet long that may have been kind of left over from last year with the mild winter we had. Some of those plants probably didn't fully senesce over the winter, and so it varies in those areas.
Okay.
Yeah.
And where this needs to come in contact with the plants, do you drag your discharge hose along the bottom to get the concentrate as close to the plants as possible?
No, so the airboat is equipped with a submersed boom in the stern of the boat with drop hoses, but the hoses really only put the herbicide down about 1 to 2 feet down into the water. But the herbicide basically dilutes itself into the entire treatment volume within a matter of minutes. So,
okay. And in reading the label, it did warn that it breaks down quicker with a higher alkalinity in the water. Have you treated the water to see what the pH is?
higher pH of the water. You're right. The higher the pH, the more quickly the herbicide will break down. So we will take a pH reading on the day of treatment, and also we have the ability to put a tank acidifier in if the pH should be too high. But just based on historical values of pH, I don't believe that this pH would be a problem here on Hickory Hills Lake.
Okay, yeah, generally it's not anywhere near 8.5, but you are planning to test prior to.
Yes.
And what do you use for an acidifier?
It's just a tank acidifier, just a common product that's sold for treatments, just any kind of herbicide treatment.
Okay.
So.
If you do get a chance, can you just forward the MSDS or the label for the acidifier to the office?
Oh, sure, absolutely.
Okay. That answers all of my questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'd like to call on Mary Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Dominic, I'm not so familiar with a lot of these herbicides.
Sure.
So maybe you could explain to me just a little bit about, I do understand a little bit about basic chemistry and about how things, kind of break down and whatnot. But how do you ensure that this doesn't end up being an active herbicide when it goes over the dam? That's mostly what I'm interested in.
Sure. So, well, there's a couple things that will prevent it from going over the dam. So, the herbicide does break down through various means, chemical and sunlight, photolysis in the water. So the herbicide's been shown to only stay in the water for really like 7 to maybe at the most 48 hours. And then again, we're treating 15 acres of the lake, and there's a lot of water around the treatment areas that the herbicide would have to dilute into. And again, we're only treating at 200 parts per billion. So, the dilution in the water around the treatment areas will happen pretty rapidly along with the natural decomposition of the herbicide. So there wouldn't be really any appreciable amount that would make it over to the outlet. And again, all these products are reviewed by EPA. They're also, some states rubber stamp the EPA approval, but Massachusetts, fortunately, does not. So it actually gets reviewed by DEP and Department of Agricultural Resources as well. So these are well-researched products, and they have been registered for use in Massachusetts. And again, we also do have to obtain, and we have obtained a permit from the DEP Office of Watershed Management, showing the treatment area, showing the quantities of the herbicide that we'll be applying to the lake.
Thank you, Dominic. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Are there any other questions? Rich Tremblay.
Thank you. Hey, Dominic, just a quick one. Could you put the map back up and show us?
Let me
areas to
enable
be
screen-
Hello?
let me enable screen sharing again. Go ahead, Dominic.
I was concerned with the area that you were treating and where that is in relationship to the dam.
So the dam, so this would be the closest area. If you can see my cursor, I'm circling the closest area, and the dam is over here. So just kind of eyeballing it off the scale on the map.
You're right here.
I'm sorry? Oh, so my
Didn't
guess
say
is it's
anything.
about 800 to 1,000 feet away from the dam.
Okay. All right. Thank you. That was my question, sir.
Thank you, Richard. Are there any other comments or questions from commissioners? Are there any comments or questions from members of the public? Then if there are no other questions or comments, I'm looking for a motion to approve this pre-treatment plan.
So moved.
Motion by- Seconded by
Katie.
I think. Katie, thank you. Roll call vote. Rich,
Aye.
Katie,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Mary,
Aye.
Richard,
Aye.
and I for myself. Thank you, Dominic.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, folks.
All righty. The next thing on our agenda is an appointment for 40 Laurel Lane preliminary discussion. It's my understanding that Jack Maloney is here for that.
That is correct.
So just introduce yourself, Jack, and
Jack Maloney from Dillis and Roy. I'm here on behalf of Laura and Dennis McDonald. Can I share my screen, Mr.
yeah, I
Chairman?
got it enabled.
Thank you. All right, can everybody see that?
We can, at least I
Okay.
can.
So just a quick locus, this is Lake Whalum, and the property is right in this highlighted yellow area. I'm gonna get to the concept plan, which we submitted. So this is the property, existing house. What we're looking at doing is putting in a deck, 25 by 10 wooden deck at the very top of the slope here. And then a set of stairs down to a landing area, and then have a proposed seasonal dock that would go out into Lake Whalum. Currently, there's not a feasible access down to the lake for the homeowners, and we wanted to touch base with the commission to see what their thoughts are, throw a few ideas out to the commission and go from there in regards to construction and, what we can and what we would be frowned upon doing in this area.
Could you please describe the slope between the deck and the edge of the lake?
It's fairly steep. It's we got some trees in it, as you can see by the aerial photography here. It looks like pines mostly, and then there's some deciduous trees that are involved in there. I have not personally been out to the site, and I do apologize for not being there and getting an exact look at what the structure would be. Let me this one may be a little bit better. Can everybody see that? So the house
what?
sits the yellow highlighted lot.
Nope.
Nope.
Nope. We're looking at the original concept plan.
Sorry, hang on. Let me switch back.
And the other thing you should mention is, are you proposing to take any trees down?
I don't believe so. I don't think we necessarily would be taking any trees down. We try to keep it as natural as possible. If we do have any vegetation that must be moved or taken out, we do have ideas for planting down either side of the stairway. But when we get to that point, Mr. Chairman, I think we'll address that, but right now, we're just looking for some ideas to throw at you and get some feedback from you in regards to the stairway down. So you can see, this is the Lunenburg GIS map with the topography on here. It is fairly steep in there. That's why we'd like the deck at the top, a little landing at the bottom, and then it would go right out to the dock area. Again, that would be removable. With that being said, talked to a landscaper today that, you know, could do some work out there. He was thinking more of a hardscape type of granite sort of slabs to go down. We've also thought about using the helical piles that screw into the ground and putting our stairway foundation on top of that. This way there'd be little disturbance going down that banking in regards to any cuts for any hardscape material. So again, this is just an informal discussion to get some feedback from the commission as to what they would be looking for and you know, how well we'd be able to work with you on getting this project approved.
Thank you, Jack. Comments or questions from commissioners? Rich Tremblay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a couple of questions. Currently then, on this property, we do not have any kind of stairs or access of any kind to the water. Is that correct?
I believe so. Excuse me. The McDonald's are on, I believe they're on this Zoom call. I'm not sure if they'd be able to jump in and
This is Laura. There are no stairs down to the lake. There is no water access. Also, to answer a prior question, there would be no need for any trees to come down. There are many old trees that have fallen down in that area, but there are no trees that would need to be cut down.
Anything else, Richard?
Oh, okay, thank you, sir.
I guess I'd like to do like a little straw poll for the benefit of Jack and see if people have any remarks about the nature of the stairs. I'll go first. Speaking for myself, I think the least impact would be stairs above the on top of the helical piles, above the landscape. But I also be willing to consider the granite steps. Would anyone else care to weigh in on their feelings about any possible stairs here?
Mr. Chairman, this is Mary.
Go ahead, Mary.
I would prefer to see stairs that allow some migration of moisture. That's just my own preference in the sensitive area.
So permeable is what you're saying.
Permeable, yes.
And so in your view, Mary, then would permeable pavers as opposed to the granite?
Pavers would be something I would look like having steps that are on top of the what was the term?
helical.
Yeah, the helical supports also, but something that had some kind of space in it that would allow moisture, rain and whatnot to go through.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you.
Mike LaRouche, would you care to comment?
I sort of go along with Mary's suggestion about if stairs are going to be there, it would be nice to see moisture being able to permeate the product and go back into the soil instead of running off. I think that was a good suggestion, Mary. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Katie Childs?
Yeah, I agree with what Mary was saying. Definitely something that's permeable and would allow infiltration, especially, below the 30-foot buffer would be ideal.
Rich Birch?
I'm kind of tossed up. Given the slope, I'm not sure if trying to do a permeable paver is going to be a permanent solution to that. I think you're going to get movement with the frost. And in this instance, a granite step is going to be far more permanent and require no maintenance or no re-engineering over time. That's not going to give way. Though I am interested in the helical supports, because those are probably aluminum or galvanized. And then I imagine they're supporting the step up above the ground, so you will have and correct me if I'm wrong, Jack, is that the way that these helical piles work?
Correct.
Okay, so that would be my first choice, and just a matter of some sort of Trex deck or pressure treated, something that's going to last a while. But the helical supports, once they're in the ground, are pretty permanent. So that would be my first choice. The permeable pavers would be my last choice.
Thank you, Richard. Rich Tremblay. Did I call on you, Rich, already?
No, sir, you didn't. Thank you.
Okay, well, I've lost track, so it's your turn, Rich.
Alrighty. I know we don't have a full drawing in front of us, but I'm concerned about the size of these stairs. And it looked like we had a platform up top after we left the deck before we got to the stairs. Are we talking about a railing? Are we going to put a railing system in here? Got a few more questions, I guess.
I would assume there'd be a railing in there for safety purposes on one side.
We know how wide we're going to make these stairs?
4 feet, I would think, would be minimum size. I can't think we're going to have anything larger than that, wider than that.
I would think 4 feet would be the maximum size. Speaking for myself.
No, I'd agree with that. I think 4 feet is sufficient. I don't have any other questions. I can agree with what Mr. Birch said. I was interested in that type of stair. I think that's best for the situation, my opinion only.
All right. I would also comment, I like that the proposed deck is outside the 50-foot no build zone. And I like the idea of the helical supports, with a railing and Trex decking and that kind of stuff. And I think a small landing is called for at the bottom of the steps and before you go out onto the deck, but not too big.
Yep,
Jack,
just enough.
Do you have any other, Jack, have you gotten the guidance you were looking for or not? Or do you have?
I think we have, excuse me, I think we have. Laura, do you have anything else that you may want to ask?
I don't, thank you.
I think we're good right now. I think we have a good idea which track we want to go down.
All right, well, thank you so much for setting this up. We'll move on to our next agenda appointment, which is Marshall Park Trail Plans. Who is here for that? I bet it's Anna Lockwood.
It's either Anna or myself, Bob.
Oh,
Bob,
okay.
I'm on as well too. This is Karen Menard.
Oh, all right. Oh, we have a whole host of people who are interested.
We
Okay.
did, but Bob, I just want to throw in here, we had no idea that this was on your agenda for this evening.
Oh. Well,
So-
I would just say that we're down an administrative assistant, and I apologize. And we can always reschedule if tonight's not good.
I'm happy to, and Chris is obviously here too. Anna may be floating around. I know she had something else she was gonna have to jump off. I just don't know if I'm prepared to answer if it's questions that you have. I just am not sure I have the information that you need. Anna literally texted me 10 minutes ago and asked me to jump on, so.
Okay, well,
So,
I bet, but I bet Chris is well prepared.
So, Bob, this was just kind of an early touch base that I had mentioned to Anna that we just wanted the commission to see the trail system early on. We're still only at a 50% schematic design, and we just figured we'd share it, and we'll have some new plans soon. We didn't
So-
want to do the whole thing in a vacuum.
So Christopher, for the benefit of the people home, can you identify yourself and your role in town?
Sure thing. My name is Christopher Ruth. I'm the facilities director for the town.
Thank you, Chris. And Chris, would you like to share your screen so you can show the schematic?
Sure. Let's see if I can do this without messing it up here.
Bob, I'd like to ask this actually be tabled. I understand that Chris is prepared for this, but the park commission had no idea this was coming in front of you folks tonight. And I want to make sure the Parks Commission is fully on board with what is being presented this evening. Because again, Anna and I had no idea this was coming on the agenda. Last week, we met as a Parks Commission. We had no idea then either. So we haven't even talked as a Parks Commission as a whole about this topic.
I'm fine with tabling it. There's no rush. Chris, how do you feel about that?
I'm fine with it. It was really, it was more of just wanted to keep you guys in the loop that it's something that's coming up. We're obviously a long way from permitting. So it was really just to mention to the commission that it exists and, something to look at once we have, we don't have the 100% or our 50% schematic isn't complete, I should say. So it's really just something to keep you in the loop that we were thinking about a small system through the woods of trails down towards Marshall Pond. So
Thank you, Christopher. Then with that, I think unless somebody has any questions or comments, I think we'll move on. And thank you, Christopher and Karen. Anna, do we have any other appointments tonight?
No, not scheduled under appointments, no.
All right. I was kind of fishing if we had heard from our tenant, so.
Oh, I did. I was just putting that, I put that under old business, for discussion with you earlier on, either this past week or last week. I just put underneath old business, but if you would like to move it up to this.
Well,
we
but
can.
if the tenant is here,
Let me see.
I'd like to get it out of the way.
Yeah. She's.
I'm here.
Yeah. there
All
she-
right, see, that's what I thought. So, Corinne, I think you received a letter from the town attorney.
Yes, I did.
And do you have any questions? I mean, we're interested in, getting monthly reports.
Yeah, I actually spoke with Anna on the phone earlier today and her and I kind of discussed it. I'm just gonna set up a Google Doc and share it with her. That way you guys have access to it.
Okay,
Just of all the hours and just start a log of it.
that works.
Does that sound good?
That sounds good.
Awesome.
Now, wasn't that better than wait until old business?
Absolutely.
All right.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
All right, let's move on
Anything
to
else
our
about
first,
the house or anything? that you
excuse
need?
me?
Anything else that you need from me?
Not that I know of, unless our expert on your place has some input, Mike LaRouche.
I did see it on the agenda down further that there was.
Yeah,
like
and
maintenance update.
we'll be talking about other stuff. And Mike, is there anything you need from Corinne at the moment while we have her?
Yes, I just wanted to let her and the commission know that I had a chance to speak with Christopher Ruth. And he mentioned that out of the two projects that we had talked about, one was painting of the exterior of the house and also the kitchen project in the house. He mentioned that the painting of the house is probably going to be the first to be on the docket, as it's less money than the kitchen project. So it looks like the focus will be perhaps on the painting first, and then he's going to see if he can look at the kitchen part, because it looks like it comes in at about $40,000, which is more than what his projects, I think he had a $10,000 project range per project. So he said that the first one probably is more doable, and we're going to have to work at trying to figure out how the second project can be done. So that's the latest there on.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, I wasn't aware of the painting of the house, but that's fine. Whatever you guys got to do.
Okay. Since we put in the windows
Oh yeah,
last year,
absolutely.
the paint could sort of solidify, making sure everything is tight and you don't have any problems with it. So
Yes, that would
it
be
makes sense on a facilities point of view to see to it that the painting gets done. And there are a few pieces of siding that's missing, and we certainly don't want to get water
Right.
into the building. Now that we have some nice windows there. So
Right, exactly. I
I-
agree. Yeah,
okay,
that makes
All right,
sense.
thank you both.
Thank
All
you.
right.
I appreciate you.
you're welcome.
All
Have a
right.
good night.
We'll move on to our first new public hearing pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 as amended in the Town of Lunenburg Wetland Protection and Municipal Bylaws. Public hearing on a request for determination of applicability by the Town of Lunenburg Facilities Department for the proposed addition of sand at the town beach at 265 Prospect Street. Chris, are you here for that?
I am.
Take it away. Chris, you have anything to present? Did you want to share your screen?
I really didn't have a whole lot. It was really just a renewal of the permit to replace sand that has eroded from the past year. I believe it's a 3-year permit that's currently expired, so we were just hoping to be able to put some sand back.
And how much?
The current quote I have from the landscaper, he estimated about 15 to 20 cubic yards of sand, mainly focused close to the beach house and then spreading out from there.
And Chris, when we do approvals, we typically have things in writing, so we've documented what we've approved.
Yep.
Do we have anything in writing from Chris, Anna?
As far as the submission, we have the submission for the request for the sand, just the WPA form itself, and then some other, like the parcel itself highlighted. That's what we have for the submission.
And is there a amount, anything about the timing and so on and so forth? Is this a one-time request for this year, or what is this?
Right now, Bob, it's for this year. At the end of each season or beginning of the next, we would have to take a look at and see what the erosion did. It's my first year as facilities director, so I'm not quite sure how often the beach erodes.
And has the town done anything about reaching into the water to pull back the sand that washed into the lake that used to be on the beach?
We have not. There will be another permit coming up in the not too distant future for some raking of weeds out front, but that's the only thing we've had planned.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or comments from commissioners? Please raise your hand or just speak out. Richard Bursch.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I unfortunately am not in favor of adding sand to an existing beach. At this point, the town should be looking into trying to get the sand that's eroded into the lake Unfortunately, as we add 15 and 20 yards per year to this beach, that sand is filling in the lake, which technically is a violation. So I think this does need to be addressed for a long term. I don't think adding 15 or 20 yards of sand annually to the beach is the proper way to be treating the lake. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. Any other comments or questions from commissioners? Chris, we typically tell applicants who want to add sand to the beach, you know, do your due diligence first about trying to reclaim the sand from that washed into the lake before you come and ask us, you know, to add more sand. I've not done the site walk. I don't know what the condition is. Having once had young grandchildren and kids, I know the value of you know, a sandy beach, and I'm very appreciative, you know, of its value for kids. But we'll give it a shot, and we'll see if anybody's willing to make a motion here. Anyone willing to make oh, Karen Menard has her hand up. Oh, I forgot to ask for comments from the public. Go ahead, Karen. I think he has her hand up. Or maybe not. Maybe that's just my cursor. Oh, that was just my cursor. That wasn't Karen. Never mind. Are
Mr. Chairman,
there any comments from the public? Mary Wilson.
So for what it's worth, I did go on the site walk with Anna and Rich Tremblay, and we did take photos. There is some erosion down there, but it does unfortunately look like there's a lot of sand in the lake. Whether it's enough to you know, solve the problem or not, I'm not in a position to speculate, but there is some erosion down there, and we do have photos on the shared drive if any of the conservation commissioners wanted to look at that.
Thank you, Mary. Rich, do you have anything to add to that from your site walk? Richard Tremblay?
No, I went down there and the sand isn't gone. It is eroding in some places, but you know, we can look at the pictures. Gave everybody a clearer understanding, but no, I had nothing further to add at this time.
Thank you. Is anyone willing to make a motion?
Mr. Chairman, what would be the next steps if we wanted to? I guess we'd be making a motion for a positive determination.
Yeah, and then they'd have to start over, or we could take and perhaps say to the town and Parks and Rec, why don't you send some equipment down there? Why don't we continue this? Send some equipment down there, see how much sand you can drag back out of the lake. And then we'll come down, do another site walk and make a determination.
I think that I would make that motion that we continue, and that the recommend that the town facilities go down and try to reclaim as much sand as they can. My understanding of the Wetlands Protection Act is that sand eroding into the lake is also considered a taking, and therefore a modification of the wetland. So I would move that we continue this.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that, Richard.
Okay, so a motion and second. Before we do that, I'd like to hear from Chris Ruth. How do you feel about this?
We're happy to take a look at that. Do I have any special requirements for the equipment that we'd be using to try to reclaim the sand?
Typically, at least, I know at the Hickory Hills Lake, what we tell people is, you know, the equipment stays on the shore and the arm reaches into the water, you know, the drag.
Okay, well,
Wait,
we,
let's hear what Rich Birch has to say.
Generally, it has to be done by hand, anything below the water line. I think, and I could be wrong about this, but I think what you're talking about, Bob, was when they were trying to pull the weeds at low, when they've let the water out of Hickory Hills to get the muck out below the water line. I don't think we usually allow the equipment itself in the water.
And it's the way I've seen it done is the equipment itself stays on the land, and the only thing that goes in the water is the bucket arm.
Okay. And the only reason I said it that way is I happened to be reviewing the order of conditions for Hickory Hills, and that was one of the comments that DEP said, that only removing the sand and things below the water line will could be done by hand, not mechanically.
And I don't know if you were here for that meeting. We had an extensive discussion about that. We did vote to allow in that discussion, you know, the use of, you know, what I just described.
Okay. All right. I guess I wouldn't be in favor of that, but if you had done it, you have done it. And the second comment was, if we do continue this would give the applicant a chance to put pen to paper and give us a proper application.
Yep.
Documentation.
I'm sure we have a proper form filled out, but you know, we need details about exactly what's being proposed.
Correct.
The amount of sand and the time, you know, when, and so on and so forth.
Yep. Yeah, and I believe it was 3 years ago when they came before us, they got approval for 60 yards of sand over 3 years. Was that correct? I don't have the exact application in front of me.
I have no idea. I do remember we gave approval. I didn't think it was for 60, but maybe it was.
Yeah, but it was for a certain amount of sand, which obviously at this point has gone into the lake. So,
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. So hearing no further discussion, we'll take our roll call vote on continuing this to a date certain, which would be our next meeting, which would be June 21st. Is that, Chris, do you think that gives you enough time to come back?
I will have to follow up with Anna and let her know. I have to reach out.
And if it's not, we'll just continue it on the 21st to our first meeting in July.
Sounds good.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Roll call, Rich.
Aye.
Katie,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Mary,
Aye.
Richard,
Aye.
and I for myself. Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 as amended, and the Town of Lunenburg Wetlands Protection and Municipal Bylaws, a public hearing on a notice of intent by Kenneth Bunting for reconstruction of a single-family home and installation of a new sewage disposal system at 20 Fire Road 19. And it has been issued a DEP number, and I think this is the one where the DEP had a fair number of comments. Who is here for that application?
I am. This is Dan Wolf from David Ross Associates.
Oh, hi, Dan.
Hello there.
So I believe, let's see. You have the ability to share your screen. Would you like to do so?
I would like the plan on the screen, but I had talked to Anna earlier. I have not been able to share my screen in other previous meetings, so Anna said she might be able to. Is that possible, Anna?
I think Anna Petrie has started to share her screen.
Great. All right, well, thank you. Again, my name is Dan Wolf. I'm with David Ross Associates, and I'm representing Kenneth Bunting, the owner of this property at 20 Fire Road 19. On this property, there is a current single-family home and a detached garage. And what is being proposed here and shown in the center of the screen is that the existing single-family home is being removed and replaced with a new single-family home in roughly the same location. The current home is 34 feet from the wetlands that you can see to the left or the west. And we have moved the house over toward the east to give a greater offset there. The house is now placed about 60 feet from that wetland. We've also, we have the lake at the very bottom of the page. And there is a concrete retaining wall there right at the edge of the water. And we have matched that same offset to the house. The existing house is 51 feet and the proposed house is 51 feet. The deck extends a little bit closer, as did occur on the previous house. The other activities that are proposed to take place in the buffer zone are the installation of a new septic system, or to be specific, the only portions of this are the sewer line, the septic tank off to the left of the house there just below the shed, and a pump chamber to pump to a leaching trenches that are proposed outside of the buffer zone. I believe the commission had a site walk on Saturday. I was not able to attend, but I did walk the site with Anna earlier last week. And obviously, I hope the site walk went well on Saturday for those that were able to attend. And I'd like to throw it back to you, Mr. Chairman, to see if there's any questions I might answer.
Oh, I just, right off the bat, looking at the plan, it looks like the existing deck barely crosses the 50-foot no build, and the proposed deck is almost entirely over the 50-foot no build. Is that a accurate description?
Oh, the existing deck is about 47 feet from the lake, and the proposed deck is 42 feet. So it is slightly closer, yes. I did have a conversation with Anna at one point, and what we had talked about was the fact that the deck is pervious. In other words, it's not a solid surface like a poured concrete patio. It would be a wooden or those Trek boards that allow for water to permeate, and below the deck would be lined with crushed stone, giving a full pervious area for water to be absorbed in that location.
And could you just tell us what that rectangular thing is between the proposed deck and the lake? It looks like it got stairs at each end.
Yeah, that is an existing flat patio area. That's been there for many years.
Thank you. Questions or comments from commissioners? Mary Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The existing, so when I was out there on, on Saturday, and so the building that's on the drawing is an existing loft garage. Actually looked like a house. Is it not a house?
That is a garage with a one-bedroom living area above it.
Okay, and there's no living space on the first floor?
No, there is not. It's a two-car garage, and I believe there's a single bathroom and a stairway are the only things on that first floor. The stairway leading up to the bedroom above, yes.
Okay, thank you. And then so the shed that is shown adjacent to the existing house, that's going to go away altogether?
Yes.
Okay. Remind me again, the legend's not visible. What's the dotted line, dashed line?
The bold dotted line is the erosion control that will surround all the proposed activity.
Okay. And,
And thank you for pointing out that
Go get Mousy. Where's Mousy?
we have a mute failure.
I just muted that person.
okay, I was just
Thank you,
going
Mr. Chairman.
I was just going to add, thank you for pointing out that shed. That also does get removed in conjunction with the existing house. And there's also a portion of the driveway, the paved driveway that's going to be removed. So overall, there is a increase in pervious area that is going to be the result of this project.
Okay. Anything else, Mary?
Are there trees that are going to be removed? I think that's one thing we'd had a question about when we were out on the site, and that's not jumping out at me on the drawing.
Yes, on the for the removal of the house and shed and for the construction of the new house, there are no trees that are coming down. However, the septic tank and pump chamber are being put off to the west there. And in that area where there is an existing leach pit there. So we're using that void or that excavation area to place the tanks. Over the years, a tree has grown probably right in or around this leaching pit. And that tree is it's a triple-based hickory tree, and that will have to be removed. And it's probably not a great or stable tree to begin with, because as I say, the whole root system is probably been feeding off the leach pit that is there and has been there for years. And that is the only tree that would need to come down.
Okay, thank you. No further questions.
Mike LaRouche.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I'm just concerned. Do you think we could hear some of the DEP concerns for this project?
Sure can.
Mr. Chairman, I would just like to add that as of this afternoon, when I left my office, I had not received anything from DEP yet.
And I
So
could be mistaken that it was a different, because I noticed that everything on our agenda had been issued a DEP number.
I had been speaking with the reviewer at DEP last, I believe it was the end of last week. And she said on the date that we last spoke, which I think was Friday, she said, I have issued the file number, but I have been waiting for it and have not seen it. I sent her a reminder letter this morning, letting her know that our meeting was tonight, but
This
have
is
not-
20 okay, technical comments. The commission may want the applicant to demonstrate how work this close to the resource areas could be performed while still providing protection to the resource areas in perpetuity, and may want to consider additional plantings, setbacks, etc. C310 CMR 10.53 paragraph parentheses 1. And where prior development is extensive, boat lift, dock, beach, etc., the commission may consider measures such as restoration to protect the interest of the WPA. The commission may want the applicant to demonstrate how the proposed site shall result in an improvement over existing conditions as per 310 CMR 1058 parentheses 5. Those are the technical comments. You know, if you take and you go to the NOI, you know, database, you know, that's what it says.
Would you like me to respond to that in any way, Mr. Chair?
Absolutely. Go ahead.
All right. As I have done on many applications, Mr. Bunting and I had a number of different conversations back and forth in regard to the fact that we do have a fairly limited building area here. And the best advantage for moving this project forward would be to move the house further away from the closest wetland, which, as I pointed out, was 34 feet to the west. Our proposed house is now going to be 60 feet. And again, as I pointed out, the offset to the lake did remain the same, but that is because we've also got the driveway to the north of the house. That driveway is being compromised further, but we also have to maintain what is a right-of-way for other neighbors that are coming from the main town road to the north, and they pass right by the existing house only a few feet away. So again, it is Mr. Bunting's advantage to move his house to the east, further from that driveway, but we don't have many options. And I felt that moving it from 34 feet to 60 feet was a great improvement that would hopefully please you as much as we could.
Thank you. I'm going to call on Richard Birch. Rich, are you there?
There we go. Do we have a narrative as to what's going to happen to the foundation of the existing house?
The foundation will be collapsed. If it's the commission's pleasure to have that removed, that can also be done, but it would then be backfilled with clean gravel fill and secured and finished off with loam and seed.
Okay. So, yeah, I get, if it's a cellar hole with a concrete flooring, it would be my request to have it removed if we're looking to improve the area and improve the permeability.
I apologize. I don't recall whether there is a cellar hole there or whether that house is on a slab. I have not seen my client in the list of names, so I'm not sure whether he can speak up.
Hello?
Yes.
Hi, we're here.
Okay.
What's your question?
Is there a cellar hole there or is it a slab supporting the house?
The building right now that is on the property is just a slab.
Okay, so we are planning to remove the entire slab.
Correct.
Okay.
That is
And, and it looks like the area is pretty much loam and seed as it is now.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
And have you done a calculation as to the impervious surface, if it will be less where we're working in the outer riparian zone?
Yes, in fact, that is detailed in the bottom left portion of the plan. There's a table that we gave. And there's a net decrease of impervious area of 325 square feet.
Okay.
Thank you again, Anna, for showing that.
Absolutely.
Anything else, Rich?
Nope, that's it at this time. Thank you.
Are there any other comments from commissioners? Are there any comments from members of the public? Speaking for myself, I think I'd be in favor of this as presented. One, they've moved the whole house farther from the resource area. Two, they're reducing the impervious surface. And three, they've got some rocks in hard places from a design point of view. And so speaking for myself, I think I would be in favor of it as presented. I'm not sure it makes sense to ask for additional trees over where they're putting in the septic tank and the pump chamber where they're taking down that hickory tree. But those are just my individual thoughts. I'm looking for a motion. Please.
So moved.
Thank you, Richard. Do we have a second?
Second, Mike.
All right, a motion and second, roll call, Rich,
Aye.
Katie,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Mary,
Aye.
Richard,
Aye.
I for myself.
Mr. Chairman, I see that someone has their hand up, maybe a member of the public?
Oh, Don LaBelle has his hand up.
Yes,
Go ahead, Don. Did you have a comment about this application? On Lake Shirley?
I can't do it. Now can you hear me?
I can hear you, Don. Did you have a comment about this application on Lake
Yes, I
Shirley?
think, I love the application. I applaud the creativity and I like it. My question is, and it really goes back to a couple of presentations ago. So I've had experience in other towns where we've approved these plans and there's no enforcement. I'm assuming everybody's going to do everything they can to do just according to the plan. But how do we know what happens if somebody decides, all the hell with it, let's build the deck out, another 5 feet? Or, when we got
We'll
into
make them rip it
construction,
out, Don.
who's going to do that? You, Bob?
Me, we have an agent. I mean, we have, this is a notice of intent. They need to take and file a copy of this notice of intent with the Registry of Deeds. When at the end, and it gets filed, so now it's like sort of like a lien on the property. When the project is complete, they need to take and get what's known as a certificate of completion. And we need a recommendation from our agent that everything was built, as was proposed in the design, and we don't vote for it if that didn't happen. I can tell you, recently we had an instance where somebody on Hickory Hills Lake built a roof line, extended 12 feet closer to the lake than what we approved, and we made them rip it off. So we do have enforcement, we do have follow through, and I hope that answers your question.
Well, it does. If you actually got somebody to rip off the roof, I applaud you, because the other towns I've lived in, they just say, well, shit, nobody knows how to enforce these laws, so too bad. But
That
you
doesn't
do. So
happen
good
here,
for
and
you.
I'm gonna,
We're in
go
a
back
better,
to muting you again.
we're in a better place. Thank you.
All right. All right, so I'm gonna go on to our next public hearing pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 is amended in the Town of Lunenburg Wetlands Protection and Municipal Bylaws. A public hearing on a request for determination of applicability by Fred and Roberta Jewell for septic system repair at 131 Cove Road. Is someone here for the Jewels? Anna, do you know anything about this application? Who's representing them, if anybody?
Yes, Doug Smith.
Oh,
Yep.
Doug Smith. There we go. All right, Doug. Doug, would you like to share your screen?
I was hoping Anna could do that.
Anna, would you like to share a screen for Doug?
Sure thing. Hold on one moment.
All righty.
Can everyone see my screen?
I can.
Okay.
So Doug, does this give you us what you would hope to see so you can tell us about this application? Doug?
It is existing house and
They need a new septic system, so as you can see, the septic itself is out of the 100-foot buffer, but the tank and pump chamber are right at about the 50-foot buffer. Nothing is going to happen in the 30-foot disturbed area. I propose to have tanks put in and the wattles put in just a little bit above the 30-foot, no disturb. And it's a system to replace what's existing now, which is in failure.
And do I understand that the only thing under consideration here is the septic, that the deck is existing, the house is existing, everything else is existing, and nothing else is changing?
That is correct. Everything's existing that you see on the point, yes.
I've heard enough. Is there any comments or questions from commissioners? Rich Tremblay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The current existing septic system that's being replaced, I know that's down on the lower part of the lawn. What's going to happen to that? What's your plan?
That will be disconnected totally. The tank will be removed and the system itself will just be completely disconnected.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other comments or questions from commissioners? Any comments or questions from members of the public? This is a request for determination. Hearing none, I'm looking for a motion for a negative determination for this request for determination of applicability.
So moved.
moved.
Second.
All right. We have a couple of motions and a second. Roll call, Rich,
Aye.
Katie,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Mary,
Aye.
Richard,
Aye.
and I for myself. For this next hearing, I'm going to make Mary the host,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
and I'm going to recuse myself and stop talking.
And Rich, if I could lean on you, I'd like to try to make you co-host so you can help me with managing the room, just to make certain everybody that wants to talk has an opportunity.
Go ahead.
Let me see if I can finagle doing this time. Last time I fumbled it. Okay, I think you have co-host responsibilities now, Rich.
Okay. Looks like I do.
Thank you very much. All right. Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 is amended, and the Town of Lunenburg's Wetland Protection and Municipal Bylaws, a public hearing on a notice of intent by Lunenburg Water District for a pilot study at the Hickory Hills Well Site 208 Northfield Road. We have a DEP number 208-1294. And before we start into the rest of the meeting, I noticed there are a lot of members of the public, and we want to be respectful of that. I want to remind everybody that this hearing is limited to the jurisdiction of the Conservation Commission, specifically the Mass Wetlands Protection Act and the municipal bylaws, and further limited to the project submitted by the Lunenburg Water District in this NOI. There will be an opportunity after the presentation and after the commissioners speak for public comment. I'm going to ask members of the public to limit their comments to matters relevant to the jurisdictional concerns of the commission and to the scope of the current Lunenburg Water District's project, and to refrain from commentary that is not either related to our jurisdiction or to other projects that are not subject to this NOI. And I definitely want to honor everybody's right to speak, but in the interest of managing time, please refrain from repeating comments that have already been raised. And for circumstances where I feel like we're hearing repetitive comment, I'm going to be respectful, but I'll ask the commenters to proceed on to new commentary. And again, for comments that are outside of our jurisdiction and outside of the project scope, I reserve the right to mute any participant that's, you know, not heeding my advice. And again, we want to be respectful to everybody. I know there's a lot of care in the room, and I honestly, I respect that. But we do have to stay on track and address the concerns that are the jurisdiction and the project and scope. I've been made aware that there has been raised an issue of procedural omission that was raised by an abutter. And Anna, I think you were notified also of a similar but different concern. And I think maybe we should discuss that prior to getting into the topic at hand. I was notified that the Woodlands Trust had not been notified of this hearing. I was notified by the head of the Woodlands Trust. Joan Pease, I think you are representing the Woodlands. Do you want to confirm or clarify that comment?
I do, Madam Chair. Thank you. I have a short statement I'd like to read if that's appropriate at this time.
Please proceed.
Dear Lunenburg Conservation Commissioners, please be advised that the Woodlands Village Condominium has reached out to both the Lunenburg Water District and their engineering company, Ty & Bond, on multiple occasions to ensure that both are aware of our interest in this project and that both had accurate contact information. At the November 28, 2022 Water District meeting where representatives from Ty & Bond who were assigned to this project were present, representative from the Woodlands, myself, Mrs. Pease, exchanged contact information with Vice President Thomas J. Mahana, PE from Ty & Bond, and explained that the Woodlands private property abutted this project and that the Woodlands was very interested in the project and would like to be kept informed. And Mr. Mahana gave me his contact information at that meeting. At the October 24th, 2022 Water District Commissioner meeting, I, Mrs. Pease, spoke to Chairman Mark Birch, conveying the Woodlands' interest in this project as an abutter and provided him with the Woodlands trustees' contact information. Massachusetts Department of Environmental Protection Wetlands Regulation 310 CMR Section 1004 defines an abutter as an abutter means the same as owner of land abutting the activity. The Lunenburg Water District easement where the project proposed in this NOI is located directly abuts the property owned by the Woodlands residents and condominium. Thus, the Woodlands, either through their trustees or residents, deserve appropriate notification of the public hearing scheduled for tonight. Furthermore, 310 CMR Section 1004 states, owner of land abutting the activity means the owner of land sharing a common boundary or corner with the site of the proposed activity in any direction. The Woodlands is a private property owned jointly by the sum of the Woodlands residents and represented by their elected trustees, and it shares several surrounding boundaries directly touching the boundaries of the Lunenburg Water District easement where this project is to take place. However, as you can see from the attached documented Lunenburg Water District easement boundary and abutters map boundary PDF, which I mailed to the Conservation Commission, the applicants based abutter notification on the boundaries of the Woodlands private property rather than the boundaries of the Lunenburg Water District easement. 310 CMR Section 1005 continues to provide protection of abutters by requiring notification. Concurrent with the filing of an NOI, the applicant shall provide notification to all abutters. The applicant shall provide within written notification to all abutters required to be notified by hand delivery or certified mail, receipt requested, or certificate of mailing. Mailings must occur 7 days prior to the hearing. Because the applicant used an incorrect abutters map and submitted the map of the entire Woodlands property, abutters were notified who are not true abutters to this project, and true abutters were omitted. That is the Woodlands. No one associated with the Woodlands, not the trustees and not the residents, received any mailing, never mind a 7-day mailing notification, even though the Woodlands clearly meets the definition of an abutter as described in the Wetlands Act. The Woodlands has reached out on multiple occasions to both the Lunenburg Water District and the Ty and Bond engineers, one of who is represented at this meeting, with accurate contact information. Lastly, DEP Wetlands Regulations 310 states, the Conservation Commission shall determine whether the applicant has completed the abutter notification requirements. And certainly I don't feel in this case they have. Therefore, in an effort to protect the Woodlands rights, the Woodlands Village is asking the Lunenburg Conservation Commission to postpone this public hearing until such time as the applicant and their agent, Ty and Bond, can appropriately notify all abutters of the impending public hearing. Sincerely, Joan, and I'm not speaking as myself here. I am speaking as representative of the Woodlands with the full support of the Woodlands trustees.
Thank you, Mrs. Pease. Anna, I think you had heard there were some other issues of notification. Could you clarify that? Did we lose Anna?
Yeah,
Nope.
I'm here. I'm going to go back to the. Hold on one minute. It's not standing out completely. It might have been, I think it might have been the same thing if you're referring to the email I had sent prior.
Okay,
That it would be the same pretty much.
okay, fair enough. Fair enough. Thank you. And I would like to ask now the Lunenburg Water District representative to, did you notify the Woodlands, or was this, you know, an accident of omission?
I can address that. Seems that my name has already been mentioned several times. I'm Tom Mahana. I'm a principal with Ty and Bond. I'm here tonight representing the Lunenburg Water District along with other representatives from Ty and Bond. We have Rick Canavan, principal environmental scientist, Derek Belanger, who's also here tonight, senior engineer. And we also have representatives from the Water District, including Mark First, Water Commissioner. We have Fran McNamara, Water Superintendent. We also have Christy Swinger from the Water District. Specifically regarding notification of the Woodlands, and I'll let Rick confirm this, but we received the certified abutters list from the town of Lunenburg's Board of Assessors. The first owner on this list was the Woodlands Realty Trust. It was addressed to Michael J. Kenny, trustee, address 811 Turnpike Street, North Andover, Mass. That was received from the town of Lunenburg's Board of Assessors. Notification was sent to that address, to that person. Rick, do you want to expand on that?
If I can share, I can show you. If you can see, this is, maybe let me know if you can see this. This is a copy of the certified abutters list that we asked for from the assessors for this location. Is required, you know, conservation, and the town develops this list. As Tom mentioned, the Woodlands Realty Trust is the first addressee on the list, and then this file is the certificates of mailing with the postal cancellations that shows that the notice was sent to the Woodlands Realty Trust at a North Andover address, which is the address that was provided by the assessor's department.
Okay. I think I'm going to lean. Did you have further commentary?
I was just gonna add also that I believe we also received confirmation from the DEP representative that we follow
procedures for notification.
Okay, I think at the end you faded out, but you said you received confirmation from the DEP that you followed the appropriate procedures.
Correct.
I think I'm going to lean a little bit on Rich Birch as kind of my subject matter expert in hearing proceeding.
So at this point, Mary, the certified list provided by the town of Lunenburg is the list that they have to follow. So if there is an inappropriate or incorrect address on that list, that's the responsibility of the property owner, not of the applicant at this time.
However, I provided them with the correct address and information. The property owner did contact Ty and Bond and the Lunenburg Water District with correct contact information.
Unfortunately, the statute states that it's the address that's provided in the certified list by the town assessor is what they are legally bound to go by.
Certainly, that's not the spirit of this law, and certainly the Woodlands did make an effort to make sure in the hands of both the applicant and their agent, Ty and Bond, correct information was placed.
Thank you, Mrs. Pease. We appreciate the commentary. I think with what we've established that it is appropriate to proceed with the hearing. And I would, this topic was going to be a hot topic. I would hope moving forward that the Lunenburg Water District would kind of consider that and maybe do a little bit above and beyond to ensure that folks can show up with a meeting with the right kind of open mindset. But that's just my commentary. Okay,
Madam Chair, I have one final comment. I want to make the commission and the applicant aware that pursuant to CMR 310-1005, the Woodlands is going to file a formal appeal to a procedural irregularity in our opinion. And we are going to ask that no work begin on this project until that appeal has a chance to be heard.
Thank you, Ms. Pease. That is the right and the protection provided under the regulation, and I would encourage you to exercise all rights afforded to you. Let's proceed with hearing, and I would like to hear very much the overview of the project. Tom, will you be taking us through this, or will there be another representative that will be taking us through this?
I'll just give you a brief introduction, description of what we're proposing, and then I'll turn it over to Rick Canovet also to talk about the actual notice of intent application and any sort of wetland resource impacts from it. So
okay, thank you.
The last time we were in front of this commission on at your May 3rd meeting with when we presented the maintenance notification letter. At that point, it was requested by this commission that we submit a request for determination. Instead, for the proposed activities, we've taken that one step further with by preparing and filing a notice of intent. The proposed activity is to conduct a water treatment pilot study at the existing Hickory Hills well pumping station. This is required to determine the treatment that's needed for the water supply, for looking at treatment for both iron and manganese and for PFAS contaminants that are present in the well. So the actual pilot study will be conducted with equipment that will be located both inside the pump station and in a frac tank trailer located that will be temporarily parked adjacent to the pump station. So in order to complete this pilot study, we basically set up a mini treatment system. It'll be, again, with pilot columns that'll be located inside the building. We're going to run the existing well. It'll pump and fill this tank. It stores approximately 20,000 gallons. And so it'll store the water pumped from the well and then pumped through the pilot columns that will be located inside the pump station. This pilot study will last for several months, estimated depending on the results. It could go from potentially 6 to 9 months, and we'll be continuously monitoring the results of this pilot study. So as far as impacts, this frac tank will be located. It'll just be parked outside the pump station. You can see on the figure being shown here, we've shown a proposed location on the side of the pump station. And the discharge from the pilot equipment will be approximately 10 gallons a minute. That's basically the flow rate of a garden hose. That'll be discharged into an existing drain located in the pump station. It'll then get discharged into a below ground dry well located to the rear of the pump station, as shown on that figure. The pilot, like I said, the pilot study will be essentially continuously. The well will be operated based on level in the frac tank. So it'll just fill, it'll pump to fill the tank as we need water to run through the pilot equipment. Once the tank is full, the well will shut off. Again, that will just be, it'll be discharged through hoses and a hydrant to fill the tank. And the discharge from the pilot equipment will be discharged through existing infrastructure in the pumping station and on the site, discharged directly to the ground. So as I said, depending on schedule, the next steps once we receive approval from this commission would be to submit an application to DEP to conduct a pilot study, and upon their approval, this work would begin probably at this point, probably late summer, and continue all the way through the fall and probably into winter 2024. That's a general overview of what we're actually proposing as far as activities. I'll turn it over to Rick if I'd like to add anything additional regarding the actual impacts to resource areas.
I'm Rick, wetland scientist with Land.
Rick, I'm struggling to hear you. It's a bit garbled and the volume's low.
Sorry, can you, how's this?
It's good. It's not great. So maybe give it a little extra kind of space between your words. It might help the understanding come through. I apologize for the audio issue.
Me too. So again, Rick Hanvan. I'm a wetland scientist with Time Bonds. I did the wetland delineation shown on this figure. The wetland limits are primarily the bank of Hickory Hills Lake. So the lake is land underwater, bounded by bank. The colored lines on the plan represent, the yellow is the 100-foot buffer zone, and then the orange and pink are the bylaw setbacks. So the 50-foot no build and the 30-foot no disturbance. The plan shows again where the frac tank will be located next to the building is within the outer 50 feet of buffer zone. And that's basically the closest that any of the proposed disturbance would be to wetland resource areas. There is a BVW to the south of the pump station. So there's one area of wetlands further away from the building, and the rest is different inlets of the lake that extend closer to the existing pump station.
Thank you, Rick. Tom, is that?
I think unless there was anything that Fran or Commissioner Bursch wanted to add, I think that would be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. I do have a couple of questions. So the fill of the frac tank, is that going to be manual or is that going to be automated?
That'll be automated. That'll be based on water level that we'll be monitoring in the tank. So the well it'll just run, probably less than an hour to fill the tank on an as needed basis as we continually run the pilot.
And how will you prevent overflow?
It's going to have a transducer, well level transducer. It's equipment that'll monitor the water level within the tank.
Okay. And how often will you have somebody on site to either just put eyes on the condition of everything and identify if something's going astray?
Yeah, once probably when we get the pilot going, and maybe I could turn that over to Derek Belanger also. He could probably fill you in better with the details, but probably be once we get the pilot up and going, it'll be on a daily basis, probably for like the first week, and then once everything is running, we'll probably be making visits probably every 2 to 3 days to monitor to monitor progress, take samples, check on the equipment. And usually when we're there, it'll be probably a couple hours a day.
Okay.
I believe Derek is in the audience. Derek, is there anything more you wanted to add on regarding the frequency?
I think you hit most of the points there. It'll be an initially manned daily for about a week or two for startup of all the treatment columns, and then once everything's running, it'll be less frequent, most likely weekly, to do some testing and take some samples.
Thank you, Derek.
And as I understand it from the proposal, the discharge is expected to be drinking water quality?
That's correct. Yes, the raw water from the well will be treated for both iron and manganese, and then it'll be treated for PFAS as well.
Okay. And the nature of the test is that sometimes you expect that you're going to have to change things to get the optimum outcome, so it may not happen the first time. What would be the non-optimum outcomes, and would that also be discharged into the dry well?
Can you repeat that? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I didn't really follow your question.
Well,
I understand your question, I
yeah,
should say.
you guys are positioning this as a test, right, of how to optimize the treatment. So usually with a test, it means that you try the first time, it doesn't work. You try the second time, it doesn't work. You try the third time, it doesn't work. So all of the trials that get to the place where you're optimized, what would be the discharge in those non-optimized models? Would it still be drinking water quality?
Yeah, it would be groundwater of greater quality than the existing groundwater. So any water
Okay.
put back into the ground would exceed the quality that's already in the ground.
Okay, and so then the dry well itself will go back to the same level of the well where the water is being drawn from, or would that go to a different level?
I believe the well is much deeper than the existing dry well.
Okay, and the capacity of the dry well, is that known?
I believe it exceeds 10 gallons a minute. It was originally installed for a water cooling of an emergency generator that we believe is greater than the pilot discharge. The exact number escapes me here. I can pull that up though.
Yeah, it'd be nice if you could pull that up. Because I anticipate people are going to ask that question besides, or have that question besides just me. Okay, I think I'll open the floor to my fellow commissioners to ask questions.
Madam Chair, I had a couple quick questions.
Thank you, Rich. Yes, proceed.
All right. Question one, so you're pulling up the schematics for the dry well? Was I correct in hearing that?
We have I believe we have the existing instruction manual for the heat exchanging cooling system that the dry well was originally installed for. Trying to confirm specifically the existing sizing rate from that generator.
Okay. Just, and when it was designed, you tested it at 20,000 gallons per day for 6 to 9 months to make sure that it would handle that discharge and dissipate it back into the ground.
We did not design the original dry well.
Okay. Do you have any way to test that so we know it's going to work?
I think we would lean towards empirical testing it, and if there is an issue that arises where the water is not infiltrating properly, we would suspend the test and allow it to the water to infiltrate before resuming the test.
Okay. I guess one of my concerns would be if that does become a case that you do have somebody on site during all tests to make sure that that dry well does not overflow, or have a backup plan for dissipating the water like you originally had into the lake.
Yeah, I think our intention is to provide some erosion control around the existing dry well area, potentially if there is any issues.
Okay, well, this is a notice of intent. If you have any desires to do that during the project, you should probably change your submittal or add them to your submittal prior to approval.
Yep, I may be speaking out of turn on that. I apologize.
Okay.
I'll push it back to Rick for any of those NOI specifics. But yeah, we will.
Okay.
I think the intent is to maintain the dry well.
Question that is a question that I have, that, you know, where you just admitted that you had nothing to do with the installation or the design of the dry well, to make sure that that does not become an issue, because you are putting, you know, again, it may not be a lot of water initially, but if you're continually dumping 10 gallons per minute or whatever it takes to empty a 20,000 gallon tank every day, which is more than 10 gallons a minute, into a dry well for 6 to 9 months, at some point you could possibly inundate that dry well. So we want to make sure that we have a backup plan in place, and I would imagine for you guys, you'd want to have it already pre-permitted so that you can continue the tests moving forward. Second question I had to do with, you had mentioned treating the water for the PFAS. How does that process take place?
That'd be granular activated carbon and a surface modified clay material, which is an adsorption process, which would remove PFAS from the groundwater. Okay, so you're not adding any other chemicals to the water to try to get the PFAS out. You're just looking to try to capture it in the charcoal and the clay. Correct. There's no chemical addition for the PFAS treatment.
Okay. And what happens to the media once it's absorbed the PFAS? It becomes contaminated.
It's hauled away off site. There'll be no media disposal on site.
Okay. How much media are you going to have every day in testing this water?
Yeah, so these treatment columns will be several 6-inch diameter PVC columns. Each one will be about 5 feet tall. There'll probably be about 4 to 6 columns, depending on the final media selection, or depending on how the spacing works out in the pump station for the pilot engineer. That media will be continuously used. There'll be no changing of media. So as soon as it's started up, it'll run continuously for the duration of the pilot. So there'll be no exchanging of media beyond the initial startup.
Okay. And your application narrative did speak of backflow or back flushing of these filtering columns?
Yeah, at the initial startup, all the water will be reversed up through the column to remove any type of fine material, and that will be captured and hauled away.
Okay. And how much of that do you anticipate? So you're doing this back flushing daily of the filter columns?
For the PFAS treatment system, it's initially, and then unless there's any hydraulic issues, it's done intermittently. So if all goes well, it's once. We might have to do it twice throughout the duration of the treatment system for the PFAS.
Okay. And you do have a containment area within the building that you'll have prior to for capturing the water, and then I believe it said you're allowing it to just basically dry out and you're scraping up whatever's left.
Yeah, there's existing room where that material will be captured and dewatered and brought off site.
Okay. And what's and just for my knowledge, what's the process once it's been contaminated with the PFAS to dispose of it?
Typically, it's either incinerated or landfilled.
Okay. And is that something that you have to track?
It is, I believe it's tracked. There is a waste originator certificate that I believe gets produced.
Okay.
The water district would be
All right. And the only other thing, Madam Chair, I'd like to just have considered is being CC'd or being sent all of the testing results and that originator's receipt for any contamination that's taken off site, just to ensure that it's not accidentally left somewhere. And those are my questions for now. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rich. Are there any other questions by my fellow commissioners? Not seeing any.
I'm not seeing any hands.
Okay. Well, then I think I'm going to open it to members of the public. So please raise your hand. Please state your name and your address, and please address the chair with your comments. And Rich, I will let you lean on you
We
to
can
help me
start
manage
with
that.
Joan.
Thank you, Ms. Pease.
Thank you. Thank you. Would it be possible for me to share my screen? I have a diagram I'd like to show.
Okay, I think so. Let's
I am all set. Is this, as question for Ty and Bond, are these examples of the types of water containers that you are planning to use for the water storage?
That is correct.
My comments are now directed to the commissioners. These are large impermeable surfaces. Not only are they large impermeable surfaces, but when they are filled to capacity with water, they are extremely heavy and will compact the soil in this area and kill all of the vegetation underneath these containers. I'm sure Commissioner Birch can recall a few years ago, there was an RDA for the woodlands, and we were told that our kayaks in the same area cannot be on the ground because they kill vegetation. All of our kayaks had to be raised 10 inches or more above the ground, which we complied with. And this tank is going to destroy the vegetation underneath it and compact the soil, I'm sure, to the point where it will change the topography and thus the runoff, in addition to being impermeable.
thank you, Ms. Pease. I actually appreciate seeing the photos of the tanks, representative tanks, and the specs on those. That is useful information to have. Thank you. Any further comments? Okay, I think we'll, Rich, we'll move on.
Renee.
Yes, hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you, Renee.
Okay,
Welcome.
great. Renee Emke, 6 Iris Court. Mr. Birch addressed a lot of the questions I had, so thank you. I think I have a couple of questions. I believe one of the presenters may have misspoke. They said the pilot would run from late summer to winter of 2024. Is that correct? 2024, not 2023? And I'll just leave
That's
that.
correct. That's correct.
So that's more than a year.
I think you want to clarify whether it's January 24 winter or December.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, I mean, it's gonna go through the fall into the winter. and
Okay,
probably
okay,
It'll
less
end
than a
in
year.
early winter to 2024.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I consider winter starting in December, or November. But anyway, thank you. The other question I have is around testing the discharge. You said people will be on site daily to start, and then once it's running weekly to do testing and take samples. I anticipate, given the pilot and the size of the columns, that these columns would become saturated and we're gonna have breakthrough of PFAS and other things being discharged. How will that be caught? How often will the testing be done? How will that be caught? And what is the turnaround time on those testing results?
Yeah, absolutely. So those testing results are typically 2 to 3 weeks, depending on the laboratory. We've seen 3 weeks is typical. But what we typically do is we have intermittent sample ports along the bed of the media.
Right.
So we'll take samples at like 25, 50%, 75%, and we'll track the breakthrough of that, periodically, and watch the PFAS break through that media. So we'll have a little bit of we'll kind of watch that wave flow through the media before it starts to break through, and we can make any adjustments we need to monitor and stop the pilot before we get significant breakthrough. Typically a polishing column. These systems are usually provided in a lead lag system, which all the treatment sizing is provided by an initial column, and then a redundant second column is provided downstream to protect any additional PFAS from coming out into the effluent.
So I would anticipate you're gonna need to change out that lead column at some point during this pilot, because it will become saturated.
Yeah, right. Once it becomes saturated, we'll suspend the pilot, and that'll be the data we're looking for, is
Oh,
the time at which we saturate that column.
So the pilot will end at that point. You won't swap out columns.
Correct. We're looking to get some information about how long it takes to saturate that column.
Okay. And you said 2 to 3 weeks turnaround to get the results.
Correct.
All right, because I don't know where the discharge into the dry well, you mentioned, it'll be cleaner than the water that was put in, but that water is coming from a well much deeper. This is being released, and I have a concern about it, leaching out, going into the lake, which would be at a higher level than what's in the lake, possibly. And then, Madam Chair, if I can make one final comment, I'm asking because it does touch on the notification.
Proceed, Ms. MP.
Okay. I think I'm disappointed in not recognizing that the people impacted living right next to this easement were not notified. The spirit of the law, I think, is what needs to be taken into account, and I think common sense must rule the day. The developers or the people on this project, High and Bond, have been looking at maps for I don't even know how long. Street names are all over these maps. None of those street names were on the abutters list. So I think, at some point it's just common sense. The street names on that abutters list weren't on the maps that they working on around the easement. And I'm just disappointed that the residents weren't given notification, weren't given time to look at. I actually was able to obtain a copy of the notice of intent. It's very thick. I think Woodlands residents should have had an opportunity to review it. And that's my own personal comment. Thank you for allowing me to state that.
Thank you, Ms. Emke.
Andy Stravasky.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Travasky. Please proceed.
Thank you, Mary Wilson, Madam Chairwoman. I want to speak to what Ms. Emke just said about the abutters in the Woodlands. Ty and Bond notified 32 other abutters. The amount of residents within the Woodlands are 47. That represents over 60% of the abutters to this project. 60% of the people directly abutting this project have not been notified. And Ty and Bond was aware that they, as far as last week, and they've made no attempt in this meeting to even apologize or put forth anything on how they're going to resolve that. I mean, I'm an abutter to this property, and to be told, oh, well, we did what we could. I'm absolutely upset by this.
Mr. Stravasky, and I hope I'm not mispronouncing your name. I hear you and I understand. I share those sentiments, but it is something that's already been expressed. So, in the interest of time, I would ask you to move on to new points.
That's time on. How deep is this dry well that you're going to be discharging into?
I believe it's like 6 feet deep.
And is there any type of information on the capacity of this well as you put in 20,000 gallons? How many times do you think you're going to be dumping that 20,000 gallon tank into this dry well?
The flow out of the pilot column is likely to be less than 10 gallons a minute, so it's not necessarily dumping 20,000 gallons at one time. It'll be about a garden hose amount of flow into that.
I understand, but I'm asking more to the saturation of the land and the foundation underneath the building, because it's only about 6 feet deep, and how the tank is 20,000 gallons, it's going to discharge at a rate of 10 gallons a minute, but how many times is that 20,000 gallon tank going to be filled up and discharged into that dry well over the period of the pilot test?
We're estimating at worst daily.
Every day, 20,000 gallons are going to be discharged into a dry well that's 6 feet under the foundation of that building.
Yeah, the exact pilot rates will be determined in the field. We're estimating that will be no greater than 10 gallons a minute. So to give you a specific, I'd hesitate to tell you exactly how long it would be, but based on the 10 gallons a minute, we estimate it'll be about daily that it'll drain.
Is there any?
Just to interject, I just kind of ran the math, right? And to discharge the full tank over a 24-hour period, it's sort of kind of in round numbers, around 14 gallons a minute rate of flow. So you wouldn't quite get the whole tank and 10 gallons per minute or less in a full day.
Yeah, and more likely this will be about 2 gallons a minute, but in the effort of being to giving ourselves a more conservative approach, we're looking at it as at a 10 gallon a minute rate. So,
any other questions, Mr. Stravasky?
No, I'll leave it at that. Thank you for your time.
And could we get your address, Mr. Savansky?
I'm at 8 Winter Green Court.
Okay, thank you. And I did just have a quick clarification for Derek. So the pilot is coming out at 2 gallons to 10 gallons per minute, but to dump the 20,000 gallon tank that you're filling every day is another 14 gallons per minute constant, correct?
So the well will fill the tank once per day, and then there'll be another set of pumps that will pump out at that pilot rate of, say, 10 gallons a minute through the pilot into the dry well. So we will drain that tank at no more than 10 gallons a minute.
Okay, well, to empty a 20,000 gallon tank in 24 hours, you have to pump more than 10 gallons a minute.
Right. So we may actually fill that tank on less often than what we're talking about here, but to be conservative, we would say it daily.
Or maybe you would have residuals when you refill it every morning. You'd have some left in the bottom of the tank.
Something along those lines, correct?
Okay.
Thank you. Don LaBelle.
Mr. LaBelle?
Name and address.
102 Royal Fern Drive, Lunenburg, Massachusetts.
Thank you.
I just want to make a recommendation or make a request. There are an awful lot of comments were made about, I believe it's this. I think there's going to be, I believe the well is 6 feet deep. I believe it exceeds 10 gallons a minute. Everything is, I think, I'm pretty sure, I think it's going to be this. Will an NOI be updated to have specific numbers in it and specific details, including, what one person said we're going to come down a couple days, a couple times the first week. Somebody else said, no, we'll be there for a week. We'll be there weekly. Then somebody else said something else. I think we need more specifics. And that'd be my request before the whoever is supposed to approve something approves anything.
Well, it would be the Conservation Commission that would approve, and it would also be at the discretion of the Conservation Commissioners to specify any needed clarifications. But thank you for your comments.
Madam Chairman, does that mean nothing's being approved tonight then?
We haven't voted yet. So it will be contingent upon the discretion of Conservation Commissioners.
So the Conservation Commissioners tonight could vote and approve it without even getting the answers to these questions, I guess.
Yes, that's within their purview.
Okay, well, I'm glad I asked the question. Thank you.
Thank you.
Derek, just to go back for a quick second, you had said that you're not going to put more than 10 gallons per minute into the holding tank?
To clarify, the temporary tank will be filled much faster. I think with about 200 gallons a minute. That temporary tank will be filled based on the rate of the pump in the well, and then pumping out of that temporary tank through the pilot treatment system that's located in a containment area in the pump station out to the dry well would be 10 gallons a minute.
Okay, so I guess I read it wrong. I thought it stated you were going to pump the well full and take 10 gallons per minute off of that full flow from the well. That is not correct. You're testing the water after it's been pumped into the temporary tank?
Correct. To reduce the impacts of the pilot study. Typically, typically we do these studies in many communities around New England. Typically, these studies are done by pumping the well through a hose from a hydrant directly onto the ground at high rates, hundreds of gallons a minute, in an effort to reduce the impact at this site. We've modified our typical plan to include a temporary tank where the well would be pumped at a high rate into a equalization tank, and then a separate pumping system would pump out at a lower rate to reduce the amount of water going to the ground rate wise.
Okay, so you're going to empty the tank and refill it and test each day, or you're just going to test each day the filter columns or the outflow?
There's several different tests. We'll test upstream and downstream of each filter column. We'll take a sample from the well as it's filling the tank. So there'll be when we're doing testing, we'll take it in a couple different spots.
Okay, but no more than 10 gallons per minute will be going into the dry well.
Correct.
Thank you very much. John Fortune?
Yes, thank you. John Fortune, 50 Hemlock Drive. Also part of Hickory Hills Landowners Incorporated. The dry well, we've talked quite a bit about the dry well. Where is the dry well located?
Behind the pump station. It was shown on the figure behind the pump station.
It was behind the pump station? So it's
Yes.
not in the area where the tank is going to be sitting over it or anything like that? Okay. All right, very good. I just had a comment. We've talked a little bit about this. I know someone mentioned the weight. We're talking about 167,000 pounds of water at 20,000 gallons sitting in that thing. So along with whatever it was, 25,000 pound tank, we are, almost 200,000 pounds or whatever, almost 100 tons of water and tanks sitting there on that land. So I think one of the previous speakers mentioned something about it, indentations in the property there. I would think that will happen with that kind of weight. Thank you.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Mr. Fortune.
Bobby Turkington?
Thank you. Bobby Turkington, 110 Royal Fern Drive, Lunenburg. I have some real concerns about the erosion so close to the lake. I'm concerned about the soil around the frac tank. And I'm also concerned about the accumulation of the discharge into the dry well. And I'm not totally comfortable that will all just be magically taken care of. I'm very concerned about runoff into the lake and erosion. Is there anything that you can describe to us to allay those fears of erosion and runoff?
Does someone from Time Bond want to respond? Did we lose our representatives from Time Bond? Derek. Having
Sorry
trouble
about that.
unmuting.
I out of force of habit, I mute myself after I stop speaking, so I wasn't able to unmute. I apologize.
No issues.
Yeah, we understand that this is a sensitive topic, and our pilot engineers are well aware that this is a concern. I think the water district, as well as the Time Bond and the pilot engineers, we'll do everything we can to suspend the pilot to allow any type of issues. If any issues come up, well, we would stop and allow this water to infiltrate before proceeding. And if it becomes an issue, we would have to suspend the pilot based on how we provided the information.
Thank you.
Jack and Ann Denny Brown.
Jack Denny Brown, Jack and Ann at 15 Wintergreen Court. Yeah, we were wondering about alarm systems. Will there be a Wi-Fi hookup alarm system to notify you in the event that there's malfunction? Or are you going to depend upon our smelling or noticing something and calling you?
It's a great question. Oh,
Derek, do you want to address that regarding the frying tank? I mean, the pump station itself is fully alarmed, and the water district receives, they monitor all the controls within the pump station already, when it's operating. The frac tank itself, maybe Derek, you could talk about how that is controlled.
Yeah, that can be provided with like a submersible transducer, which would be tied to the operation level of the tank for filling. In terms of the dry well, there would be no component of smell or anything. It's not. This is just groundwater. It's not sewage water or anything. That would be an odorous material as well. So typically it would be done by visual observations. But there will be some automatic controls to allow the system to operate as needed.
Okay. One other question, and you mentioned that, as I understood it, there's a dewatering process in which you separate water from the contaminant. Is that true? Did I get that wrong?
I guess I wouldn't call it a dewatering process. The only residuals that are produced here is from backwashing occasionally. Typically for the PFAS treatment on the initial startup, you would backwash that by putting clean water, groundwater up through the media bed to remove any fines, and that would be hauled off site. So it's not a typical like dewatering process in terms of removing water from solids as part of the process.
You did mention dewatering. What were you dewatering?
Dewatering. I don't recall mentioning dewatering, but I apologize.
I believe you might be referring to what described the backwashing procedure.
Yeah, I think so too.
Okay.
Yeah, that's just like you would do like a pool filter. You put water up through it and just removes any of those material that's accumulated in the filter, and then it would be removed from the site. So that would all be captured, and none of that water would go to the ground. All that's separately captured.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Robin, Shirley, Bill, Diane. You are unmuted.
let's come back to them.
Donald
way.
Monroe.
Hi, this is Don and Kim Monroe, 12 Wintergreen Court. Wonder if somebody could address the noise impact for all this pumping that's going to be going on.
The well's submersible, or not, sorry, the pumps that'll be running continuously will be submersible. They'll be inside the tank. They won't have any noise. There may be some minor sound when the water's being filled in the tank, but that'll be very, very brief. So it's not a continuously loud process. You probably, hopefully, not even notice any sounds coming from the pump station.
Right, and the well itself, the pump it's a submersible pump in the well. So when the well is operated to fill the tank, and the well is located, separately from the pump station out on the peninsula, so that doesn't create any additional noise.
The only other question I had is all the results of these tests, are they going to be filtered back through the Conservation Commission?
When this, sorry, I keep getting knocked out here. When we complete this pilot study, we'll be preparing a report with all the results of, of the testing and the water quality results. The report is submitted to DEP, obviously the water district, and we'd be happy to share it, with the Conservation Commission also.
So is that at the end of it, or is it?
It's at the end. We'll be giving, periodic updates, to the water district as we get, results of the testing in. But, we're happy to share that information if that's what folks would want. If the commission wants it, happy to share it. I believe the water district would be fine sharing it also.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Next,
Dave McDonald.
Mr. McDonald, welcome.
Hey, how you doing, Madam Chair? Thank you very much for opening this up to the public with some questions. It's very informative. And Richard, hey, welcome back, Richard.
Thank you, Dave.
Question I have is for engineers. Who's the owner or the supervisor or the one speaking tonight? What's his name? Is that
Time
Tom?
Bond? Yes. Yes. I'm Tom Mahana from Time Bond.
Hey, Tom, how you doing? A couple of questions I got is, how many of these studies have you conducted throughout the state of Massachusetts?
Dozens, maybe.
Do you have a list of the cities that you've worked in?
Well, I'll give you an example right now. We're doing an ongoing one down in very similar test down in Rainham. We've completed them in Derek, help me out. Webster, Dudley. I mean, these are recent ones. I mean, every time, maybe to clarify, this is just so you understand, whenever we build a design achievement plan, the DEP requires that this is an activity that's required by DEP before we begin the design process. So this exercise of conducting pilot studies is standard procedure for water treatment projects.
Okay, so is it possible you can provide a list of the towns that you've worked in for? I like to check things out, so I may call for references and stuff. So if you can give us a list, at least 10 of people that you worked in within the last year, I would appreciate that. And I know the people in Dudley, so I'll call them tomorrow, but just like to know what their thoughts are about what's going on. That's all. Is that possible?
Well, what exactly are you asking me?
A list of, you're doing test studies now for PFAS. I'd like to know the cities or towns that you're working in within the last 10 jobs you had.
Okay, if that's what the commission was, if the commission feels that that's information, I'd be happy to provide references. That's fine.
Okay, I don't know why you need the commission, but okay. Madam Chair, your thoughts on that?
I'm not opposed to it. I'm not mandating it either. Again, that's something that's at the discretion and the pleasure of the Conservation Commission about whether they would mandate it or not. Seems like it would be a nice gesture of goodwill, but it's not yet mandated.
I mean, I would automatically give it. I don't know why I would hide it, but I understand.
I'm not implying that at all, sir. I just listed several projects
Okay.
that we have ongoing.
If you can provide the 10 last towns that you're working in as of today, that would be great, and provide it to the commission. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr.
Dave.
McDonald.
Take care.
Before we go to the next speaker, is there anybody that hasn't had a chance to ask a question? Seeing none, I will ask Renee Emke.
Hi, me again, Renee Emke, 6 Iris Court. One of the previous speakers triggered a question in my mind regarding the holding tank, and there's connections going in, obviously, to fill it, and then there's connection coming out. And that's very dirty water in that holding tank. It's untreated. And this will go through, you know, November, December. We likely could have some hard freezes. I'm worried about any potential leaks there. And especially in, you know, as weather changes, and what safeguards are in place to catch those leaks so we don't have high PFAS, high iron manganese water spilling out onto the ground.
That's a great question. Ms. Imke, Tom, or is it Derek? Do you care to respond?
I think you're on mute. Your lips are moving, but I don't hear you.
I'm muted on my headset this time, so I didn't get I can get stuck
Same
by the
double
program.
mute.
Yep, the double mute. Apologize for that. Yeah, this is similarly, it'll be by the pilot operations. I don't think we have, well, we can provide a temperature transmitter on the water coming in. We'll have some temperature readings, but typically the water will be used at a fairly high rate, that it's, you know, a large volume like that, probably not going to freeze in a couple hours. But similarly, if we have a freezing event in the tank,
or just general leak failure, it doesn't even have to be through freezing. Temperature changes, you know, do, you know, raise a flag in my mind, but just, you know, junction of those input and output failing. And if someone's not coming, you know, once this is rolling, someone's only coming every once a week, maybe once every 2 weeks, I don't know. That could, you know, that's a lot of unmonitored time and potential risk.
I could probably speak on behalf, I'll let maybe Fran chime in if I miss speaking, but I believe once this is going, the water district personnel planning to visit the site at least every day during the week.
Okay, so but
we
any kind of
won't,
alarm-
we you know, for the activities that we're doing, you know, we don't have to be there every day. But I believe the water district is still going to be checking on, their staff will be checking on the facility itself on a daily basis.
Yeah, I'd feel better if there was some kind of alarm so we didn't go 24 hours between, you know, if something, I mean, that's just a lot of water sitting there. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Miss Imke. Is there actually, is there somebody from the water district on the call? I know we had some, maybe Mark Bursch earlier, that can speak to how often water district personnel will be on the site during this pilot study?
Yeah, this is Fran. Yeah, so for daily monitoring, we go to every well site in Lunenburg every day, sometimes twice a day. We'll just add this to one of our regular routine stops for daily check on it.
Okay, so you're confirming you will do daily checking.
Yes, and if necessary, we can do it twice a day. It's not a big deal.
Okay.
All right, Joan Pease.
Thank you, Ms. Pease.
Yeah, 11
See?
Wintergreen Court. I'm impressed with the questions. I never even thought of some of these things. There's a lot of good questions. But I have a different question. The Lunenburg Water District is the applicant here. And in the past, the Lunenburg Water District has run at full force this well down some soil and into a wetlands on the Woodlands property. And at last night's select board meeting, select board chairman Michael Ray mentioned that the soil is so polluted in Devens that it can't be removed. And I've read several articles from peer-reviewed journals that recently state that land that has been irrigated with PFAS polluted water becomes polluted land. And so I'm hoping that the Conservation Commission will request the Lunenburg Water District through their engineering people, Ty and Bond, to test the soil underneath where they have been doing discharges over the past several years for weeks at a time during the summer at full pumping capacity, and make sure that they haven't created a toxic waste site, which of course is then potential during any activity down there, and certainly this would be increased activity, going to stir up the soil and create PFAS contamination into the area. So I would be requesting that the Conservation Commission request the applicant to test the soil underneath where they have run the hose at full speed for several summers, and compare that to tests of soil in the same easement area where they have not run that discharge, because it's always the same area where they've run the heavy discharge, and just make sure they haven't created toxic soil that's leaching into the wetlands and could be stirred up during all this activity.
Thank you, Ms. Pease. I would just add, I had no commentary at this time, but thank you. Rich, next.
Andy Stravasky.
Thank you again. I appreciate this. You mentioned, Ty and Bond mentioned that this pilot study would go for 6 to 9 months. Did I hear that correctly?
That's what I heard.
Okay. It's my understanding that this pilot study had been modified. What was the original duration?
We'd like to go for over a year if possible, but we would decided to scale that back based on the additional cost of the temporary tank to mitigate the impact of running the well to meet the to reduce any impacts. We the additional cost to the water district to rent that tank for several months is a financial impact that required us to reduce the term of the pilot study.
How does that affect the integrity of the data you're collecting?
We can model it. We were going to collect all the data we can and model that data and help us forecast the treatment system. But yeah, I mean, less data is not as good, but we think we can get enough data with this 6 to 9 months to accurately estimate full scale treatment systems.
So if you file the NOA with the state, if everything goes perfect according to your timeline, when is that tank going to show up at the Woodlands, and when will this pilot study start?
Probably sometime late this summer.
Yeah, late summer, early fall is my estimate based on availability of this equipment.
The earliest this study would begin would be late summer.
That's likely.
Most likely, yeah.
Okay. And one final question, is the data that you're collecting needed in order to design the treatment facility, as far as the cost, the size of the tank, and all of that? I assume you need that data in order to produce some type of design and scope and pricing for this treatment facility?
Yes, the pilot study definitely impacts how we design at full scale, as well as it's required by Mass DEP for construction of any new treatment system at full scale.
So you're not going to know the full size and cost and details of what this treatment facility is going to look like until after this pilot study is completed?
We'd definitely be able to refine our initial estimates. We've made some conceptual estimates in discussions with the water district in order to meet the Mass DEP requirements, as well as refine those estimates. That's what we need to do the pilot study for. Ideally, but getting this data, we can reduce the overall footprint of the system and reduce costs, reduce the size of the building if we can feel confident that the system, based on the data, will meet the needs of the water district long term.
Are you planning to put in an early proposal on this treatment facility before testing begins? Is that what I'm hearing?
I'm not sure the question.
I think if I can kind of interject here, Mr. Stravasky, I think you were kind of hearing that there's already some kind of maybe an interim or draft proposal on the table, and it sounded like Derek was saying the data would be used to refine the draft proposal.
Yes, Madam Chairwoman, that's exactly what I
We
was.
have not started. If the question is whether or not we've started designing a treatment facility at the location, we have not.
Correct. Yeah, we have not done any design. There are typical standard design recommendations that Mass DEP has been developing with the emergence of PFAS, as well as the knowledge we've gathered from the dozens and dozens of pilot studies for iron and manganese we've done in the last 10 years. So we, we as Time Bond have some understanding of how big the system might end up being, but to refine that and move forward into a design, we would need this pilot data.
Thank you very much.
Robin, Shirley, Bill, and Diane.
Shara, 22 Wintergreen Court. And I wonder if you could speak about how the noise is going to affect us.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch your last name.
Shira?
Shira, thank you.
I don't believe there'll be any significant noise pollution to the site. All the wells will be submersed, and all the pilot activities will be taken inside the pump station. So for the most part, it'll just be minor traffic to the site for testing and monitoring.
Okay, and someone else from us, for our group is here.
Hi, I'm Iris Single at 13 Wintergreen Court. I have two questions. One, can you describe the impact to the residents, the children, and the visitors that live in this community? What will we see? What will we hear? How will our movements be restricted? How will our life on this property be changed? That's A. B, the Mulpus Brook runs through Hickory Hills Lake and goes further into other municipalities. Is there any possibility with a catastrophic failure that we would in turn pollute not only our lake, but also lakes downstream? Thank you.
Well, I guess as far as impacts, the only impact that this pilot study will have on the abutters is the presence of this tank adjacent to the pump station. So that will be parked next to the pump station throughout the duration of the pilot study. The second question was regarding failure. I didn't quite understand the question.
If something breaks, a hose gets loose, the tank.
If something, if the hose that fills the tank ruptures, the well water would be what would come out.
Okay, if a child was playing in a nearby area, would that be a danger?
As far as we know, the water in the ground is just not suitable for human consumption. We're not aware of any issues in terms of high concentrations that.
Yeah, but as far as potential, like if the question is about if there was a child that was playing in front of the pump station with this going on, and something were to break, I think what the water district is planning on anyway, securing all of this equipment anyway, so that nobody would be able to, we'll have to put something around it to protect people or kids from climbing on it or damaging any of the hoses.
Okay, so what kind of structure, and would it restrict our movement to get to our boats and use the facility?
No, it's just going to be parked right next to the pump station. So that it's not going to be completely blocking off,
what will you put around a fence, a wall? What will it be?
Could we ask, I think, Tom, you're pointing to the water district as that being part of their charter. Maybe we should ask somebody from the water district to comment. Is that appropriate?
That's fine.
Okay. And I think we have.
This is Fran.
Fran, yeah, thank you. Thank you again. I was just looking for your name in the list.
Yeah, we have no intentions of blocking off the area. Maybe as Tom mentioned, maybe just safeguard the tank. And the hose is gonna be right next to the building, so it's gonna be a very small area that will be impacted. They can still have access to their kayaks, the beach, and all that. So I don't see any issues with what we're proposing to what the residents use for that area.
Okay, thank you. There is a beaver dam and also other water fowl and wildlife plus lady slippers. What will be the impact on any of those?
This is Rick. I can chime in on that. So I did see like the lodge and some lady slippers in the area when I did the wetland delineation. The location between the proposed tank site and dry well and hydrant is mowed lawn or scrub vegetation next to the building that, you know, it's also land next to a building, so it has low wildlife value. Having the proposed activities concentrated directly around the building and up gradient of the existing driveway and in like the outer limits of the buffer zone means it should have very limited impacts to wildlife.
So you're not going to touch any of the wildlife that is existing there?
Correct. Yeah, that's the area is grass or scrubby vegetation around the existing building.
There is a neighbor that lives quite close to the existing building. How will their view or their windows or any of their activity in their property be affected by the tank?
Tank's gonna be packed adjacent to the pump station on the opposite side of the station from I believe the property you're referring to. So they may be able to see part of it. Tank's no taller than the pump station.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Rich, who's next? Oh no, did I lose my moderator? Okay, in absence of the moderator, I think I'm gonna go with Michelle Lutter. I think you haven't had an opportunity to speak yet.
It's Lutter, and this is Rich Lutter from 130 Royal Drive. I have a couple questions. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. Just in case something could go wrong, right? We've heard a lot of, like Jack said, you know, maybe, and I think, and things like that. Just in case there was a accident, right? Something, you know, gets discharged and it caused problems on the property. Who's liable for that? And is there any possibility that we would be exposed to any of that liability going forward?
Liability is not the purview of the Conservation Commission. If Time Bond or the Water District chose to speak on that matter, I would allow them, but that's not our jurisdictional matter. Not seeing anybody raise their hands with regard to that. So,
Okay.
yeah, we have to, our purview is the Lunenburg, or, you know, the Wetland Protection Acts and the Lunenburg Municipal Wetlands Bylaws. So we can speak to that and the protections afforded there under those regulations, right? And how this project might impact those protected resource areas, but that's the limit of our charter.
Is there somebody that would be able to speak to that? I'm just asking as a courtesy.
Fran, you've raised your hand again. Do you want to comment? Fran McNamara has his hand raised, but is
Muted. Oh, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, so some of your concerns with the impacts, I mean, the levels of the PFAS in the well was like around 28. When we tested the lake, it was around 20. So the amount of difference there is very minimal. So if we did dump the water right on top of the ground, I don't think there would be any concerns or for water quality or contamination of the soils or anything like that. So I don't think your concerns with liability, it really apply to to the situation. And we do whatever is district owned as insurance, so we have our own liability insurance for that. So I'm not sure where you're going with that, but I don't have any concerns with something did fail and dump the water in the ground. It's no different than it was 10 years ago when we ran the well constantly, so.
And Fran, when you ran the well constantly, how many gallons was that about a day? Do we know that?
I would say typical run times, most of the time was just summertime. I would say probably 200 to 300,000 gallons a day was a typical run. The permit for the well is 720,000 gallons a day. That's the maximum daily pump rate. It had run that on occasion, but it was pretty rare that we ran that much water.
Right. Yeah, because one of the things that would concern me is what is the impact of the lake if this goes forward and it actually becomes a usable well? Has a study been done on that, and is that part of this purview?
It's not part of this pilot study, but that has been talked about and studied numerous times. And every professional has stated that there would be no impacts to the lake. And that well was online for 15 years, and only 1 year that people had concerns with it, because the lake was low, but the lake was low before we even turned on that well. So I think it's more of a case of pointing the finger at someone else when there was definitely problems with the dam. So I don't, there will be, from what all the experts tell me and tell everybody, is that there will zero impacts to the lake.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I again think I've lost my moderator. So Mr. McDonald, I'll call on you again. Dave McDonald, do you have your hand up?
Yeah, I'm trying to unmute here. I thought you guys did that. Thank you, Madam Chair. I just have two quick questions. One was to follow up on what I was asking. And I'm asking the last 10 jobs that Time Bomb did for PFAS, not for magnesium. I'd like to know what they did for PFAS.
Oh, PFAS. Okay, thanks for clarifying that.
And the other question I had is, hold on one second. Sorry. So I'd just like to know how they would address, and this one's probably going to be for Derek, how would they address or any concerns to the storage tank if it's full of 20,000 gallons of water? You just can't unscrew the hose and replace it unless there's some kind of shut-off valve. Does that make sense, what I'm trying to say? Derek?
Derek, you're muted again.
The double valve, the double one got me again. I'm sorry. I keep doing that.
That's okay.
Err on not speaking as best I can. Yeah, I think there'd be some sort of isolation valves on each line going into the pump station. If there was any issues, I would assume it would have to be drained to maintain those hoses.
And you would still.
But I don't believe that that would have to be released in any type of large quantity. It could be slowly drained through the system over a longer period of time. So it's not a major release of water if there's any maintenance needed.
Okay, so Madam Chair, another request I would ask them through you would be a schematic on how this thing works. So you have an idea, a plan on how this system works as far as the containment and all that.
That sounds like a good request. I'm always have some intellectual curiosity about all things mechanical and engineering related. So, Derek, is that something that you can share with us? I mean, we're not asking for proprietary information. I wouldn't want you to include that kind of content, but a schematic of how this works.
Unless they're going to, excuse me, unless they're going to use flex tape to repair it. I mean, I think a schematic will be good to have an understanding of how this operates. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. McDonald. Derek appears to be frozen. Tom, let me just bump it to you. Could you do that? That's not a big deal, or?
We could provide a schematic of the process.
Okay. I don't want to do anything that's cost burden. I mean, my personal opinion is this is more just goodwill right? But yeah, if you have something like that, you'd be willing to share. I'd love to see it. Sounds like Mr. McDonald would as well. We'll go back to Don LaBelle.
Oh, hi, thank you, Madam Chair. Just briefly, I'm Michelle LaBelle and Don LaBelle, 102 Royal Fern Drive. Has the Conservation Commission been to this site? Would it be smart to do a walkthrough? I mean, I know one key
We
member
have
of the site.
we have been. We were there this Saturday.
Okay, good. All right, thank you.
Thank you. We'll go to the screen name is DeRicci.
Debbie Ricci.
Ricci. Thank you.
Mhm.
And what is your address for the record?
10 Wintergreen Court, Lunenburg.
Thank you. What is your question?
My question is how will large truck traffic impact the wetlands as they go down to, pick up that medium that they have to change if they do build a plant there, and how in general, the trucks that will be going down even during the pilot, how will that impact the wetlands in that area?
Ty and Bond, do you care to comment?
Well, we're not talking about, first of all, we're not talking about truck traffic for a proposed treatment plant. But truck, vehicle access to the pump station during the pilot study will be mostly just water district vehicles, pickup trucks, and cars. Won't be, after the frac tank is delivered and set on the site. The biggest vehicles that should be visiting there would be basically pickup trucks, and it's not going to be any wetland impacts because they're just going to drive along the existing roads to get.
So it
to
will just be that tank that's sitting there that will impact the wetlands. The one that's going to be the holding tank for the 20,000 gallons of water.
It's not going to be parked in the wetlands, ma'am.
Buffer zone.
The buffer zone it is. Yeah.
I think it'll be within the 100, but outside of the 50, if I recall correctly from the diagram.
Yes, you're correct.
Correct.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Joan Pease.
Oh, welcome back, Rich.
Thank
I
you.
just
Great to
had
be back.
some statements that I have different information than Superintendent McNamara. This is a little chart specifying the difference in PFAS, magnesium, and iron between the well, which we got that information from the water district. And then this was samples taken by John Fortune sent to a professional lab. And you can see the difference between the PFAS.
Hang on, Ms. Pease, do you have the ability to share your screen?
Okay, let me hit that share button. I do. Sorry, I thought I was sharing. I apologize.
That's okay, common.
There we go. So this data down here is from the water district's measurements. And this data up here is from Hickory Hills landowners, took samples, sent it to a professional lab. And you see the difference between the PFAS and the two is quite extreme. It's not as close from our data and from the data we got from the water district as Superintendent McNamara stated. And in addition to this, I believe John Fortune, who is still here, can comment on the fact that Superintendent McNamara said no expert said it would have any impact on the lake, because I do believe we have an engineering study from Hickory Hills that contradicts that. John?
Yes, if I may, Madam Chair, there's a Dufresne Henry report. When the well was originally, I guess, certified, that says under the worst case conditions, 100 days of pumping might lower the lake level by 1 foot. That's on page 150 of that report. And so I agree with the previous speaker that yes, indeed, there can be lowering of the lake by running this well.
I'd like to just clarify that we had a hydrogeologist come to a water district meeting to discuss that with the folks in the specific lines, and I think the context of that statement is taken a little bit out of context. That statement is taken out a little bit out of context. There's some additional discussion around that statement. And I believe the test they're referencing is the pumping test report, but we won't have to get into that now in terms of the applicability here at the Conservation Commission, but just wanted to clarify that that had been discussed previously.
And I believe, Madam Chair, that Mr. Fortune sent you that engineering study several months ago.
I do have that engineering study, and I believe
So
it's
you-
on a
you
shared
can-
drive. Yeah.
You can read the whole thing. You don't have to worry about pieces taken out of context.
Yeah, I'd just like to comment with the previous speaker, and that is true. There is more to it, but it does say, and I asked the hydrogeologist at that meeting, the last sentence is, thus, while the lake levels may lower slightly due to the pumping, a new equilibrium level will be achieved. Lake levels will not drop continuously. But he could not tell us how much the lake level would drop. And that's the critical question. So whether it's a foot, 8 inches, 6 inches, 4 inches, it's certainly not nothing. And so far, no one has been able to tell us, the hydrogeologists included, how much the lake will drop when this well is running.
And if I may add, Madam Chair.
Proceed.
La Chatelier's principle is quite clear and I'm sure all the engineers here and Renee, being a chemist, will understand that when a system at equilibrium is subjected to a stress, the equilibrium shifts in a direction to counteract stress. So anyone in basic high school chemistry can realize that if there is a stress of water removal placed on the system, there will be a shift in the equilibrium to counteract that stress, and the level of the lake will go down. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
I see no more hands, Madam Chair.
I don't see any more either. So I think we have gotten to given everybody their say. So I thank the members of the public that showed up tonight to ask questions and be actively engaged in this process. So I do very much appreciate your active participation. One thing that I had failed to do before we went to the public comment, Anna, we took some photos this weekend when we were out walking around. And if you could just share some of them, because I do think one matter is relevant, particularly, and that was the outflow discharge hoses and the erosion mitigation that's around those. Could you share some of those photos for us? Okay, yeah, and so what we're looking at is there's like a little hill behind the away from the existing water district building, where the pump is historically been discharged. And in fact, on the day that we were out there, there was a little bit of discharge coming out of the hoses and down this way. And my concern here is that these hay bales have started to degrade and in fact don't create a continuous barrier. So I have a concern about that. I don't think they're actually part of, in general, this study that's under dialogue right now, but it is something that I would like to see the water district fix. So I would ask my fellow commissioners to consider adding, corrective action on these hay bales as a considered order when we move forward with this discussion. Anna, do you have actually, I think there are a couple of other photos that maybe you could just kind of flip through that are around those hay bales.
I'm gonna scroll. The pictures are kind of out of order, so it's gonna be random. So pardon that.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, you could see there's actually water flowing out of the hose right now. And I wondered for the members of the water district that are actually on the call tonight, maybe Fran McNamara, and I don't know if Ty and Bond knows, why is there active discharge right now out of the hose?
Yeah, this is Fran. There actually shouldn't be that. That well's offline. That well hasn't been run in many months.
Mhm.
So you should not see any water coming out of those hoses. So I'm not sure why.
Can
Why you
you
are.
get somebody down there to check that? It wasn't a lot, but this is a big pipe and there was a constant flow coming out of it. I would guesstimate that it's probably garden hose or, kind of volume coming out of that.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I'll definitely have someone go down and take care of that.
Thank you. And Anna, I thought I took one of the hay bales that actually shows that they're not a continuous line as well.
Again, sorry, I'm just gonna be scrolling through.
That's okay.
Sorry, it's kind of rotated, but there's a.
There we go. Yeah. So that's also, shows the break in between the hay bales there. That really should be forming a continuous break or a continuous line. Okay, thank you, Anna. I just want to make certain that any of the conservation commissioners that didn't have the benefit of attending the site walk with us could see those photos. And the beautiful lady slippers, you have evidence. And there were a lot of them down there, but the ones that I observed were well away from the building. Yes, thank you.
Madam Chair, we did have a couple questions from the public.
Okay. I'm willing to hear those. And again, let's try to keep on new topics and not repeat material that's already been brought before the commission.
Joan Pease?
The slide you showed of the hay bales is the exact area where we would like to have the soil tested for PFAS. Also, those hay bales have been saturated with thousands of gallons of this lake water. And the last slide I showed you, the test was substantially higher PFAS than the surrounding wetlands. So that is the area we're hoping that the commissioners can write an order to have the soil tested and compared to soil in other places in the easement, and to have those hay bales disposed of appropriately, because after being soaked with heavy PFAS water, I'm sure they've also picked up all the PFAS water. Due to the charge of the particles, I'm sure the engineers are aware that there is a substantial bonding that takes place when you irrigate soil and land and plant matter like hay bales with PFAS water. So that's the area I was speaking to before.
Thank you for that clarification, Ms. Pease.
Renee?
Hi, yeah, Madam Chair, thank you very much for sharing those photos. I have to say, when you mentioned and showed the discharge out of the hose, I audibly gasped. The fact that there is discharge coming out of that hose when that well is not supposed to be on is extremely alarming and concerning to me, because that is untreated water. That is, we know that it exceeds the mass regulation limit for MCL for PFAS. So thank you for walking the ground, sharing that information, and now I'm even more concerned. So thanks, I think.
Christine Schwinger?
Hi, Madam Chair, Christy Schwinger. I'm with the Water District. And I was just wondering, when you guys had scheduled the site visit, we never heard from anyone on the commission or from Anna. Was this a meeting that you guys had scheduled for a while? Because we would have liked to have been there. We had a meeting on site with Ty and Bond that was scheduled. Anna was supposed to join us there, and something had come up. I guess we would have liked to have been on that site walk, given the opportunity.
It would have been nice to have you there too, to walk us through that. Anna, do you care to comment? I don't.
Yeah, so yes, I did miss that meeting, and I was in contact with Ty and Bond, one of the representatives from there, because something did come up, and I did let them know that I would walk the site myself, since they had already kind of had the area flagged out, and I walked it myself due to it's required by the office for myself to walk the application property. And then it's also my responsibility to let the applicants know that we do also conduct Saturday site visits these Saturdays before the meeting. And I believe I had said that in email and didn't like very pressed to like say that, you know, we're going to be meeting on Saturday. I just put it in an email after the fact that we do Saturday site visits the Saturday before the meeting.
Who did you send that email to, Anna? Do you recall?
I have to look back to my email. It's one of the representatives at Time Bond. It wasn't Derek. It was another. I'm sorry. I have to go through my email and look at his name.
So
Going
Time
forward,
Bond-
Anna, could you possibly include the water district in that email so that we can be aware of site visits as well?
Yes, I can do that.
And the property owners, the Woodlands, would also like to be aware of site visits. Thank you.
Thank you, Joan. Thank you, Chrissy. I think we're moving on to Fran.
Yes, I just want to make a comment regarding the water coming out of that hose. If there is water coming out of the hose, which you showed a picture of, so I can't deny it, that well is offline. So that is not what was stated for one of the people, untreated water. So that is absolutely not true. If there is water coming out of there, it's tied to the existing water system. So that would be treated water that's coming out from our existing wells that are online now. So it's not water that would be coming from that well. So I just wanted to clarify.
So yeah, thanks for that. Where would it be coming from? You're saying it would be coming from like a different hydrant, or from
those hoses that come from the hydrant, which is tied to our regular water system. So if there was a fire down there, it's just valved off at the top of the hill. We usually leave that valve just cracked to let water come back to feed the building so we can do sampling. So, but when we run that well, we close the valve at the top of the hill. So the system pressure, existing water system, cannot feed back to that fire hydrant. So whatever's leaking back is just leaking through that fire hydrant from our regular water system. So it's treated water. That's the point I'm trying to make.
Okay. I think I'd feel better if you confirmed that, like had somebody down there check. Because I just didn't expect to see, there are two hoses that are run over the hill. And I didn't expect to see, live water run off there.
Okay, yeah, I'll definitely have them go down there. We'll make sure we shut the water off because to us that's unaccounted for water. It's not metered, so we like to make sure we're on top of all of that. But I can 100% guarantee that well is not online.
Okay.
So that's the point I wanted to make. But I will definitely send guys down to take care of that.
Okay, thank you. All right, I don't see any other hands raised. And we have shared the photos. So I am looking for a motion from my fellow conservation commissioners here, and I think I've heard. We'll just go back through my notes to double check this. Erosion control was raised both at the hay bales, getting that corrected, that are part of this property and ongoing work, as well as erosion control around the dry well was something that had come up as a possible condition. Alarm systems to alert for any type of overflow conditions in the frac tank or leakage. I don't know, Rich, did you capture any other conditions that have been expressed or discussed?
There were a bunch of here and there ideas. Myself, I would like to see this continued. At least for myself, to have the schematics for the dry well, either a plan in place as part of the application for if the dry well gets inundated and they can't use it, if they aren't going, if they plan on going overland for the drainage. If there is a problem with the dry well, they should add that to their application. I would also like to see a remediation plan for after the tank has been removed, to make sure that that area is put back vegetated as it exists today. Myself, I'm not really up enough on the PFAS to know whether we need testing in the areas around due to activities or not, so I would like the opportunity to research that myself.
Okay.
And then the ones that you addressed as far as the hay bales. The other thing too is they had talked about securing the area. If they can have how they're going to do that in the narrative or in the plan. I don't know if they're putting fencing up or what they're doing to secure the equipment that's on site. So I just want to make sure that the application is complete. So I would be in favor of continuing at least on those points.
Thank you, Rich. I just want to point out, I think I heard something different about roping off or otherwise securing the area. I think I heard from Fran that there was not a plan to secure that area, that the hose were going to run in between the building and the tank, and that the tank would be just there on site. Fran, if you're still on, could you either confirm or clarify my understanding?
Yeah, yes, but there, as far as I knew, that there was never a plan to put in a fence area, but we easily could. So that the feed line was going to come from the fire hydrant with a hose or pipe, and then elbow up and feed the tank. So there's really not a whole lot for people to vandalize. But I mean, if there is a concern, I have no problem where we could fence in that area around that, or even just that side of the building.
And just for clarification too, Rich, in kind of what you were thinking, was it something permanent or like something temporary to, temporary
So it may
fencing
have
just
been
to
while
keep kids out, or?
Yeah, sorry about that. It may have been while I dropped off. They had talked about securing it, and then if they have no permanent plans to secure it, then it doesn't have to be part of the application.
Okay.
I was more concerned with making sure it was on the application and than making sure it was implemented.
Thank you, Rich. And so do any other commissioners have conditions or concerns that they want to express above and beyond what I've or Rich have said?
Actually, Madam Chair, I did have one other, not so much a question, but did Ty and Bond get a chance to respond to the well water levels being higher than the lake levels? Or the water district personnel?
I'm not certain I understand what you're trying to say, Rich.
Joan Pease had shown a report of water testing.
The PFAS levels being higher,
Yes,
and
and all of the levels are higher from the well water than the lake, which obviously the dry well is going to get into the lake water.
yeah, and I did not hear a response from the Lunenburg Water District. So if they or their representative want to speak to that, we'd be happy to hear.
Yeah, I can speak on that. So we've done many PFAS samples on the well. We've had readings from 2 parts per trillion up, and you're seeing the highest level that we found, 37. I think the most typical level we're finding was in the 20s, but it fluctuates. So I mean, we've had levels where it was 2. So and the manganese is only a concern for drinking water. It's not hazardous for in the environment. I mean, it's in the lakes, it's everywhere. Iron and manganese, that's usually typically a aesthetic thing. So pretty much the only thing that of any kind of concern is the PFAS levels. And like I said, we've ranged from hardly any to 37.
Do you have like a history of that data that you could share with the Conservation Commission?
Yes, I do. I just have to gather it. I mean, I've gathered all the other wells for our meeting with the selectmen last night. But yeah, I can gather the samples that we've taken.
I would love to see it.
Okay, not a problem.
Rich, anything else?
No, that was it for me, Madam Chair. Thank you very much.
So, floor is open for the other conservation commissioners. Comments? Other conditions? And I think I'm just going to do a straw poll, right, to see where everybody's head is at. If they want to ask for a continuation to get get clarifications on these points. The plan for the schematics on the dry well, the plan for the dry well overflow, remediation plan for after the tank is removed. I think the items that I brought up were all just regular order condition kinds of things. So we heard from Rich Bursch, Mike LaRouche. What are your thoughts?
I think it's reasonable as you brought up your concerns, and I'm certainly, I too approve of those concerns for continuance based on that information brought up. So,
okay, thank you,
all
Mike.
right. All right.
Rich Tremblay, where's your head at?
I would also support a continuance based on what we've discussed here this evening.
Thank you, Rich. Katie Childs.
I'm in support of continuing this hearing.
Okay, I don't think I left anybody out. Bob has recused himself, as is appropriate. So for time bond in the water district, we would like to do a continuance and get clarification on those points. I assume that would be amenable to you.
Yeah, I think that makes sense, given, that it's, we've been told it's going to be appealed. It would be nice to be able to provide this during the public hearing process. So, so we can respond to the questions you've raised. I think it makes sense to keep the hearing open.
Okay. Excellent. And in the interim, while we're continuing this, and we're going to take a formal vote on it, but can we get official notification out to the Woodlands so that we head that off?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to restart all that dialogue, but yes, like I clearly could send out some additional letters.
And again, we believe it's appropriate, and we've so advised previously that to the head of the Woodlands Trust, not the overhead of all the individual members of the Woodlands. But Joan has provided her address, and we would be glad to make certain that you get the that address as well.
Madam Chair, Madam Chair, we still do intend to file an appeal that we weren't notified appropriate for this meeting. So I don't know if that will mean that this meeting will have to happen all over again. And I suspect it might, in which case the continuance might want to wait till the appeal happens.
Thank you, Joan. But I'll speak for myself. I would like to make certain that we have clarified everything that we expect from the water district so that they can get on about their work. But we will follow the due diligence of the process and well within your rights to appeal. And I fully endorse you doing that. But I do want to make certain that we proceed according to the script. and want to
Okay.
give the water district every opportunity to get on with the work at hand.
And I
Um,
assume that Anna Petrie can assist me in obtaining the papers for the appeal and all that stuff.
Yes,
Thank you.
and I see that Mark Bursch has his hand raised. Mark, I'll call on you. We haven't heard you.
Actually,
agree or
Madam
something.
Chair,
Yes.
if I could, Madam Chair, the appeals process is for the decision,
Mhm.
not for a specific hearing. So there's nothing to appeal until such time as the Conservation Commission rules.
Oh,
Thank
I
you for
see.
that
And then
clarification.
Thank you. So I see then at that time I file an appeal that the meetings were null and void because we weren't notified appropriately.
Correct. You have a 10-day appeals period, and when we give out our findings and order of conditions, the applicant is warned that no work can take place during the appeals period. But we still have to do our jobs and issue our findings, and then you can turn around and appeal that because you may lose on appeal. So if we still don't do our due diligence, then we've muddied the process. Then we could have it appealed on a different reason.
Understand. Thank you so much for the clarification.
You're welcome.
Thank you,
Mark
Rich.
Bursch.
Well, thank you there, Richard Bursch. That was one of my questions, was about the appeal process and how it goes about. My only other question is through you, Ms. Chair, to Anna, that we get a list of all of the things that you were looking for us to cover and put on the NOI that we can share with Ty and Bond and make sure that we get everything correct for the next meeting.
We will make certain that you get that, Mark, right? I'll work with Anna
you.
to make certain it's, a complete list. And because the last thing I want is for you to have to, repeat things just from sloppy communications.
Sure. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, so I think I'm looking for somebody to make a motion to continue.
So moved.
Make a motion to continue to June 21st.
It's June 21st. That is correct.
So moved.
Okay.
Okay, I see Mike LaRouche made the first motion and Rich Tremblay was second. We'll do a roll call vote. Katie Childs,
Aye.
Rich Bursch,
Aye.
Rich Tremblay,
Aye.
Mike LaRouche,
Aye.
and I for myself. So we will see you again on the 21st of June. And Anna and I will, after this meeting, get together over the next day and make certain you get a complete list of corrective actions, if you will. So with that, I think my chairman roles are fulfilled for the evening, and I can relinquish command and control back to Bob P's capable hands.
Nice job, Madam Chair.
Thank you. It's I'll get the hang of this. Bob, I'm going to make you chair again.
Well, you can make me host.
Oh, I'll make you host and chair again. How's that?
Well, Mary, I look forward to after July 1st when I expect you'll be the chair. So you've done a great job. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Um,
I'm glad you didn't say July 1st of what year.
this year.
Nope.
With that, I'd like to go on to our continued public hearings pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 as amended in the Town of Lunenburg Wetlands Protection and Municipal Bylaws. A public hearing on a notice of intent by the Lunenburg Skate Park Incorporated for the proposed construction of a skate park and drainage basin at 100 Chestnut Street, DEP number 2081290. Are we hearing this tonight, Anna, or is it going to be continued?
I didn't receive any notification that they need continuance for this meeting. Obviously, last meeting they asked, but I didn't receive a notification that they wanted continuance for this meeting as well.
But I also don't see anyone here from that organization or from Dillis and Roy. So with that note, I'm going to make an assumption here and look for a motion to continue until June 21st.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
All right, roll call. Rich,
Aye.
Katie,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Mary,
Aye.
Rich,
Aye.
I for myself. And Anna, I would ask you to reach out to Greg and find out what the story is on that.
Will do.
Thank you, Anna. Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 is amended in the Town of Lunenburg Wetland Protection and Municipal Bylaws. A public hearing on a notice of intent by Thomas and Melanie Payne for the proposed construction of 3 replacement retaining walls, a replacement patio, and a set of replacement stone stairs. It's 647 Reservoir Road. I also don't see anyone here for that hearing.
The representative for this applicant has requested a continuance to the 21st.
I'm looking for a motion to continue to the 21st.
So moved.
So moved.
All
Second.
right. Motions, multiple seconds, roll call. Rich,
Aye.
Katie,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Mary,
Aye.
Rich,
Aye.
and I for myself. On to new business. Mary, I'm gonna give you the floor and ask you to talk. There is no update on the Timber Rights Fund. There are no topics that I know of that are not 48 hours in advance. Definition of rivers.
Yeah. Okay. So, I had to catch my breath a little bit after that other long meeting.
You want to come back to that at a different night, Mary?
I think I would like to come back to it on a different night. And just to give my colleagues a little bit of background, I'm a little bit of a regulatory geek, and I do that in my day job, right? So I read regulations from Korea and from Vietnam about, whatever it is that they're regulating with regard to the hardware that my company manufactures. And so with that, every time we come up to some of these, not every time, but a lot of times we come up to these kind of new and unique things happening in our, in our hearings or in our site walks or whatnot. I tend to go to the regulations and go, hey, what is the source of our charter? And Rich has been a really great sport in entertaining my my questions and pointing me back to the wetlands regulations and whatnot. And as we were talking about that intermittent stream over on Northfield Road near Holman, the intersection of Holman, I was looking up definitions of streams and intermittent streams and whatnot. And then I came across definition of rivers, and I started just kind of, going at Rich with like this, that, and the other thing. And so as I looked up that, it occurred to me that maybe it shouldn't just be me and Rich talking about this. Maybe other people would have a general interest about, how some of these protected resources are defined, and how some of them, particularly rivers, have actually some grandfather clauses in there, and how maybe that rolls out to, some awareness, at least for me, a better awareness of how to do these jobs and administer these regulations and these protections and whatnot. But in all fairness, it is late tonight. And just for you guys to know, I was eating lunch today at 7 p.m. as we started this meeting. So I've had one heck of a day before I even got here. So I would like to have this conversation maybe on a different night. But maybe before we go there, is anybody else interested in hearing that kind of dialogue? I mean, because if you aren't, right, and you just say, maybe not, that's fair too. I won't have hurt feelings, and I know Rich won't have hurt feelings, but you can either speak up now or send me a private note and say, keep it to yourself, Mary. Not everybody's a regulatory geek like I am.
I personally would be interested in such a conversation.
I don't think
Me
we'd
too.
be here on a Wednesday night if we weren't interested in it, Mary.
Right, same here.
Okay, fair enough. So we'll hold it for a future, for the next meeting. Maybe we'll get through a little bit earlier in the night and we can entertain ourselves with some regulatory geek talk.
Yahoo.
Okay. The next thing I asked to put on the agenda was the timing of the election of officers. Last year, I put a stipulation in before typically commissions, appointed or elected commissions elect new officers, after there's been an updating of the membership. And there's two members whose terms are up. Katie's not re-upping, and there's two people who have applied for her position. And Richard has indicated he would like to continue, and the select board has indicated that they intend to reappoint him. Mary and I have written letters of endorsement for Rich to the select board, and also we wrote endorsements, for one of the two applicants, for the opening. So, typically these elections would happen, the first meeting in July. I'll be in Africa for both meetings in July. Last year we didn't actually have the election of officers. I think it was December or January before we had a meeting in which all 7 members were present. I don't want to see that happen again, mostly because I'm very anxious to have Mary elected as chair. I am interested in being vice chair if you guys are so willing, because I'm not going away. I'm very vitally interested, in continuing to work very hard on improving our conservation lands. I'll probably still haunt Anna's office at least once a week, with a personal visit. When Rich left before we actually held the election, before, in June, before the new member was appointed, we could do it that way, or you guys could hold the election without me in July. I don't know how many other people will be away in July, and I just wanted to, have a discussion about that tonight.
What's the kind of, I know it's better to have the election when we have a full panel of commissioners. Is it a requirement or is it discretionary?
I don't think there's any rules about it. I mean, it's tradition that, you elect new officers after, there's been an updating in the membership.
Or a vacancy if you want to step down now, Bob.
Or a vacancy. I'm not stepping down, Rich.
Rich was just doing that to jerk my chain.
But that's a good idea, Rich. I could step down toward the end of the meeting next week.
Yeah.
In 2 weeks, and we can hold an election then for a chair. I like that idea. We'll put that on the agenda at the next meeting under toward the end of the meeting.
I think I'm getting a cold.
Once again, Richard solves all my problems.
Well, that's how I did it. I stepped down, so.
Okay.
Because I was supposed to be going to Alaska and out of communication for 4 months.
All right.
Then COVID hit.
Thank you, Richard. That solves that problem.
Okay.
I assume we don't have any updates on the grant application. Although we should be hearing, I would think by
soon,
within the next 4 weeks anyway, or so.
But it'll probably be after the next hearing.
I think I sent everybody the hay rights thing that Adam Costa marked up. It was a hay rights license. We've got a fella who is haying 4.2 acres over there on Pleasant Street on the Laurel Bank property. I got to reach out to that person to make sure that they're still haying it and still interested in doing the license, because they'd have to, because it'll cover us, you know, to me, we should have a formalized agreement with them, you know, that covers us and, you know, protects us. So we already discussed the Hollis Road tenant agreement. Is there anything else we want to talk about under old business?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Just one thing that I did not mention earlier is that I met with Bill Bernard at DPW, and he granted the Conservation Commission permission to get 5 gallons of gasoline or as needed weekly, so we can continue to mow the pollinator habitat.
Wow.
So I thought that was a good thing.
That's a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
That's great news, Mike. Thank you.
You're welcome.
That's great news.
And that's all I had.
All right. Anna, have we heard from the people at 950 Chase after they got that letter from our Adam Costa?
We have not received anything in the office via email, phone call, or letter in that regards.
Well, I think there was a deadline in there, and after that, we'll be going to the select board and asking them to authorize litigation.
Yep.
Thank you, Anna. And I don't think there's anything else on either of those other 2 encroachments. We did Hollis Road. Administrative determination, 17 Crocker Avenue. Anna, the floor is yours.
All right, hold on one moment as I get my things ready to share my screen. Okay, can y'all see my screen?
Yep.
All right. So this is an administrative determination for 17 Crocker Ave. This is for 3 trees to be removed. The property owner was kind enough to sketch out a nice kind of orientation of the property, where the trees are and distance to the water. So I'm just going to show this, and then later I'll show the pictures of the trees. So 2 of the trees are actually dead, and let's see, the farthest one is 85, and then the closest tree, which is the 3rd tree that is not dead, is 60 feet. So they're all outside the 50. And so with that, let me show some pictures. Okay, and then again, these pictures are going to be really random, so I'm just going to click through, but I'll kind of give an idea. So this tree, it's a white pine that is along this stone wall, is technically on the 17 Crocker Ave property, but is like leaning more towards the neighbor. And so the neighbor was concerned of the tree, and then a lot of the branches are coming down into the yard. So 17 Crocker Ave, you know, spoke with their neighbor and would like to have it removed. And then the tree to the right that has the 2 pink flags on it, that is also a pine that is completely dead. Scroll through, sorry, slow. This is, I believe, a tree that it's the other dead tree that's farther off, that wasn't pictured before, is also dead. They're 2
What makes you think that tree was dead, Anna?
I don't know, just something didn't seem very green. But yeah, they're kind of all, that's that tree. This is a hemlock, which is unfortunate because, you know, hemlocks are very special, but this hemlock is completely dead. Let's see. Yep, that tree again. Sorry, I'm just going to be scrolling through to kind of give you. So this is, again, that hemlock, and then right down further down is that other pine that's completely dead. And then off to the right more is that stone wall where that white pine, the white pine that's on the stone wall is alive, but is heavily damaged and leaning over into the neighbor's property. But yeah, I think that's it. I can go back to that diagram again to show the distances.
Do we have any questions or comments from members of the commission?
I wouldn't mind seeing that diagram again,
Yep.
Mr. Chairman.
Well, then, there we go.
I don't have any further questions, Mr. Chairman.
I'm looking,
Mr. Chair,
go ahead.
I need to, because of my relationship to this applicant, I need to recuse myself on the vote this evening.
Go, well then, all right. Thank you so much. I'm looking for a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
All right, roll call. Rich,
Aye.
Katie,
Aye.
Mary,
Aye.
Richard,
Aye.
aye for myself. Speaking of dead hemlocks, I asked my two resident experts here, Rich Birch and Anna Petrie, both of which have backgrounds in dendrology. As I ride through the woods now, when I go under hemlocks, I see all kinds of dead needles on the ground. Would that be from adelgids?
Most likely, yep.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
like the number one thing that's killing them all off. Like almost every hemlock you're gonna see is gonna have woolly adelgid.
Because you're right under a hemlock and the ground is littered with needles, so.
Yeah.
Just
Well,
curious.
there's that, and there was a pretty good drought last year too, which affected some of them, but they all have
Yeah.
indulgent moving forward.
Yeah, because that drought didn't help because they're already, under a lot of, stress because of that and the drought, obviously. But yeah.
Thank you. Certificate of compliance, 16611 Reservoir Road, Anna.
All right, so, sorry, I'm just gonna bring up the file on that just so I can talk about it correctly. Okay. So for 611 Reservoir Road, this is technically going to be two open order of conditions, same address, it's just two different order of conditions. One is definitely older than the other. The first one is file number 208619. And this was for an addition to the house, the existing house. And that was issued and completed in 2001. And again, those files are in the office and have been looked at. And then the other order of conditions for that property is 2081141, and that was for the retaining wall on the property. Hold on, let me get the year for that. Yep, so that was just earlier this year. This was May 2023. But I went to the property and inspected, and everything looked obviously stabilized, especially the retaining wall. Everything looked good, and as well as the addition, since it's kind of been there obviously since when it was finished in the early 2000s. Yeah. So this property again is requesting a certificate of compliance for both order of conditions for 2081141 and 208-619.
Any comments or questions from commissioners? If there are no comments, I'm looking for an order we do this both in one motion, Rich?
No, you should do them separately where they're separate, files.
I'm looking for a motion, to approve, the first order of condition, for 611 Reservoir Road, whose, number Anna just gave us.
So moved.
Second.
All right, roll call, Rich,
Aye.
Katie,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Mary,
Aye.
Richard,
Aye.
and I for myself. And then I'm looking for a motion for the second order of conditions for Reservoir Road.
So moved.
I had a quick question on that one, Anna. It does list on the narrative that they didn't plant a Cleveland pear that was supposed to be planted. Did you notice that when you went out on site?
I did not, but I can go back and clarify that.
Okay. I mean, if you didn't, I'm not that concerned about it. It just stated that only exceptions found on that order were the Sandy Beach was not created and the Cleveland pear was not planted. So
That's a good trade-off.
what's that?
Well, I would think that'd be a good trade-off. No Sandy Beach for no Cleveland pear.
Yep, that's kind of my thought. So
Yeah.
Not that I have anything against sandy beaches, but you know.
so I'll second that.
Thank you. Roll call, Rich.
Aye.
Katie,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Mary,
Aye.
Rich,
Aye.
I for myself. Tell us about 147 Robb's Hill Road.
Yeah, so this is a property that has an open order of conditions, and they're currently trying to sell their property. And this was dated back to 2000 under completion. And I went to the site, did my inspection, and also acquired the as-built from the Board of Health as well. And to my knowledge, it has, followed for the as-built, like what was originally submitted to the commission, and then for the as-built.
Any questions or comments from commissioners? Looking for a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, Rich,
Aye.
Katie,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Mary,
Aye.
Richard,
Aye.
I for myself. I'm assuming there's nothing new on our violations.
Nope.
And that we are making forward progress on the 205 Sunset application.
Yes, they're scheduled for the 21st.
Excellent. I wrote a letter to Bill Bernard reminding him that who was the head of the DPW, reminding him that we were getting close to the end of June. And he said he would look at his budget in the end of June to see if he could find the money in this year's budget to do the Howard Street driveway. And he responded that he was optimistic and he was going to be taking a careful look at the budget this week. So I expect we'll know by the next meeting whether he's going to do that under this year or whether he's going to do it, under next year's budget. So I expect either way. I'm hoping, we'll get that done, in the next couple months, either out of this year's money or next year's money. Nothing new on timber sales. I am going to reach out to the forester to say, when's King Associates going to come out and log that off, the Reno property. Conservation land improvements. I went down to Mackey's today and bought some tools like saw blades, bits, and some pieces of chain. and, which I took with me, and that came to like $137. And then I ordered to be delivered to the Woodlands Treatment Plant, like $700 worth of lumber to do the railings on all of those footbridges next to the Mulpus Brook.
Oh, wow.
I think I showed you pictures of, remember Jeff once volunteered, he said, oh, I'll help you with that. And so my intent, there's a sheet of plywood because we need more plywood to complete the signs at the Northwest Town Forest, the landscape signs there. And there's the lumber needed for the railings and the supports and everything. And I'm gonna cut them all to length at, you know, at the Woodlands Treatment Plant and keep them in storage there. But I just want everyone to know where this wood is. So that, you know, all the stuff is pre-cut, so you're just not trying to do all this cutting out in the woods, you know, using battery power. You know, we can steal some of the Woodlands electricity and, you know, use that to cut up, you know, use that power to cut them all to the right length. So you just have to go up there and screw them in place. And so when it's all cut to length, I'll be putting out a call for volunteers to help me go out there and put in the railings.
Excellent.
Cool beans.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Could I interject something that kind of goes back to one of those old orders of conditions?
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
The Cleveland pear is a cultivar of a calorie pear, which is also known as a Bradford pear. So it really was a good miss that Cleveland pear tree did not get added because Bradford pears, number of states are banning.
Yeah, because they're invasive.
Yeah,
Nasty
exactly.
invasive.
Yeah, so we really dodged the bullet with that. So that was
Well,
actually a double bonus.
Double bonus, absolutely.
Yep.
I signed, as authorized by the commission, I signed the waiver for the telephone poles. Now I have to go down and measure the length of the poles needed both at the Hunting Hill Bridge and also where we plan to put in the bridge on the Cowdrey lot there. And so I can send those specifications to Unitil, and hopefully sometime over the coming months and years, Unitil will, you know, will assemble those poles, and then we'll figure out how we're going to get them to the DPW yard and go from there. But, you know, it's a long range plan because we don't plan to do either one of those bridges anytime soon. But, you know, here's a way we can get the materials for free. And but that is in motion. And committee reports. How is the chairman of the Stormwater Committee doing?
Very, very exciting, sir. We're having a good time.
Oh, good. I can't believe you ended up as chair. That's amazing.
We're having fun. I'm learning a lot.
Good, excellent. Anything from open space?
Yeah, no, we did discuss. No, the big thing, the big topic is still ongoing. The potential Lake Shirley access points. I went down with Anna and we walked Zero Reservoir Road and then also Parmenter Road.
Yeah.
Yeah, and of course, you know, Reservoir Road is a lovely big parcel, but the title's not clear, so there are going to be some challenges there, and the timeline's not clear there. Parmenter Road, smaller, tighter, more, you know, congested area, but the title is clear. And, you know, and the access there also is to a much nicer body of water than the cove that Zero Reservoir Road is on. So it'll be interesting to see how that progresses.
Okay. That reminds me, thank you very much, Barry. That reminds me that I wrote to the the town manager about doing title searches on those 3 parcels that we'd like to acquire through tax
Mhm.
title. And she said that, they would do the title searches one at a time in a row, until they ran out of money. And so I've made an appointment to see Adam Costa next week, so we can, when he has office hours, I think it's actually in 2 weeks. So I can ask for an update on how he's coming on those title searches.
Is that, Mr. Chairman, is that something that I should bring up at the open space meeting?
You could, I mean, I did bring it up, and this is going on for 3 years now, Mary.
Mm,
I think it was like 3 years ago that the commission voted, or it might have been 2, that we'd like to acquire that piece of swamp in the stab smack in the middle of the Cowdrey.
yeah, it's listed as Gov property,
Yeah,
G-O-V-E,
yeah, and
Gov.
then we'd like to acquire the road that provides us access to our rear lots off a Page. And we'd like to,
Right.
which is owner unknown, and we'd like to acquire Turnpike Zero or some such thing, which would also help, provide us access, to our rear lots off a Page. And once we've done those things, then I would like to approach the landowners of those rear lots and see, wouldn't they like to donate them to conservation so we can consolidate our holdings there and actually have some direct access to the fair, whatever it is, Fairbanks gift, conservation land back there.
That would be excellent. There are a lot of trails back there that
Yep.
are used not just by snowmobilers, but also by equestrians and mountain bikers, all manner of
I have a
users
standing
of trails.
invitation. I have a standing invitation from Matt Allison. He's going to take me out there and show me around. I'm going to see if I can't get him on a mountain bike so we can go a little faster.
Cool. Yeah. Yeah, it's beautiful, beautiful woods back up
Okay.
in there. So it'd be nice if we could realize some of those goals.
Okay. Under communications, we had a letter from Elaine Peterson sent us a letter. There is a parcel on it's on Sunset, and it goes all the way down to not to Leominster Road. If you've been driving down to Leominster Road the last 5 months, there's been a for sale sign in front of where the Catacoonamug brook goes under the road there. It says for sale. It's a fairly large parcel. It's got frontage on Sunset. The frontage along Sunset is not in Chapter 61 recreation. And then there's another piece along Sunset that is not right behind it, that's not in Sunset. And then there's 2 other pieces within that one parcel, within the one parcel. And there's one parcel, parcel 4. They're going to take out of Chapter 61. I think it's A, whichever is recreation. And so we have a right of first refusal. They're leaving the Catacoonamug Brook part in Chapter 61. And so it was, do we have a recommendation? Do we want to, urge the town to buy a portion, of this lot, which I don't see how we could do. And to me, it doesn't meet any of the criteria. But how do people feel about this? Would like me to put it up on the screen so people can see.
Yeah, let's put it up on the screen. I actually had it up on my screen too.
Why don't you do it then? Why don't you share your screen?
I don't have the parcels netted out. I just have the existing parcel is not subdivided.
Oh. Yeah, did you put that on the drive somewhere, Anna? Anna, did you put that map that I looked at on the drive somewhere?
I literally was just talking and I forgot I was on mute. So I did. I put it on. It's one of the last PDFs that's on it, and I have it labeled as parcel 4, Leominster Road, first refusal.
Ah, look at that. All right, so here's the letter. Here's the parcel. We'll rotate this and then I'll share my, well, we'll share the screen first. Let's see. Share screen. Let's rotate this. There we go, I think. Yep. And so this is Leominster Road over here. Am I sharing your screen right now? Yes. This is Leominster Road up here. This is a parcel. This is a parcel, and this is a parcel. And if you drive down Leominster Road, this is where the brook goes underneath. There's a little beaver dam kind of thing over here. And there's been a for sale sign
cool.
around here for about 6 months.
Okay.
Did you have any idea?
No.
And so it's just this parcel 4 right here, that's coming out of chapter 61. And I don't think we have any, it's my opinion, we don't have any interest. And it's part of a bigger parcel and it doesn't meet any criteria, but I'm open.
Oh, wow.
Mr. Chairman, do you recall the criteria?
It's gotta be, have, well, the first is, that it's got, no, I don't. It's one of them is it's gotta be like continuous with other conservation lands, other open space.
Yes.
And it fails that.
No, actually, I don't think it does, because right across the street is the Woodruff property.
You might be right.
No, I'm looking at I was looking at the interactive Massachusetts interactive property map.
Oh, okay.
And the reason why I was looking at that, and I'd be happy to share my screen too if people are interested, is one of the things that kind of is my, I don't know, it's dream maybe isn't the right thing to say, but one of the things I think would be cool is if eventually we could have greenway, if you will, protection across the major tributaries into our lakes. And Catacootamog is a major tributary into feeding Lake Shirley. And of course, Mulpus Brook, goes up into, has its headwaters in the Northwest Town Forest as well. And there may be eventually, over time, the ability to patchwork a greenway up there because there's a lot of undeveloped land up there. But, with the, Mr. Chairman, can I share my screen?
Absolutely. I'll stop my share. Go for it.
Okay. We'll try not to keep people on the phone too late tonight. Although we may already be past that.
We've blown through that. We're 7 minutes away from 11 o'clock.
Past my bedtime. All righty. So you'll see we got Lake Shirley down here. We have Water District here. Catacootamog comes up this way, right? We've got Water District. We have Violet agricultural protections here along the Catacootamog. We've got the Woodruff property here. So we almost have a greenway, right? And that property that's in question is right here. And you'll see there's this, it's a busy road. I don't know that you'd ever want to really encourage people to be, just strolling across this road and whatnot. But I mean, there's an opportunity there, perhaps. And I just wanted to float that out. But I don't remember the criteria that's in the open space planning
I can look
outline.
I can look it up.
Yeah, Brandon had just shared that with me, I think either the last meeting or the meeting before, and I've already lost track of it.
Open space plan.
So just in this long view, right, you kind of see where this property sits is the protection of this shoreline along this wetland. Yeah, to be fair, I don't know that we would ever have any opportunities north of that in terms of adding, further kind of continuation to protect Catacootamog. But, maybe worth at least stopping and taking a breath to think about, adding this protection in there.
Mr. Chair, I also noticed they have no purchase and sale on the property. How do they develop a price without the purchase and sale?
I have no clue.
Did they have a price listing in there?
Well, generally they have a price from a developer, which is usually an inflated price. But at this point, if they don't, and we just get it appraised as it sits with the little access off of Leominster Road and all wetlands to cross to get into it, which basically we could probably at the very most allow a single family home. I was just wondering how we come up with a price.
Bob, if you go back to
So
your
it may be
map,
worth tabling this for a meeting and then asking some of those questions.
That's, and so, Rich, it sounds like you're more up on what the information we would need here than I am. Would you mind shooting an email to Anna or myself with like what we would need to find out? We can actually put it on the agenda at the next meeting. I thought this was going to be, it sounds like there's more interest and there's more to this than I thought there would be, and I don't think it's appropriate that we take it up tonight.
Okay. Yeah, I will send that over, but if it had a developer's purchase and sale pricing on there, generally it would make it out of reach. But if it's just a matter of appraising it as it sits without any development plans, it could definitely change the price.
I was told by Anna Wilkins. Anna Wilkins, it's funny, I got this from Anna Petrie, asked, said she had a question, and I stopped by the office and she showed me. And not more than an hour later, Anna Wilkins, executive director of the Norris County Land Trust, called me and said that she also, this had been put in front of her, and she told me that they were planning to put, hoping to get 5 house lots out of it.
Well, I believe that's what's listed in the letter.
Oh, okay.
But it also said that they currently didn't have a purchase and sale on it. So usually the right of first refusal, you're asked to match the price that they have for the purchase and sale, but where they don't have a purchase and sale on it. But yeah, I'll shoot you an email, you and Anna, in the morning.
Thank you so much, Rich. That would be so helpful.
Yeah.
Any other business to come before this commission tonight, or is there any other final comments from anybody about anything before I look for a motion to adjourn? I do have a comment. I think Mary and Richard did a fabulous job tonight. Running that meeting. So
I just clicked the mouse. That was all Mary.
Right.
Rich, it was nice knowing I had Rich there to support us, and also, as you can imagine in the background, he's been doing a lot of coaching, which I truly appreciate. So thank you, Rich.
Oh, no problem. It's been fun. I enjoy it.
All right. I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call. Rich.
Aye.
Katie.
Aye.
Mike.
Aye.
Mary.
Aye.
Richard.
Aye.
And I for myself. Katie, will you be with us at the next meeting?
Yes.
Okay, well, then I won't say goodbye yet.
Don't worry, I'll be there.
All right, wonderful. Thank you so much for coming tonight. All right, good night, everyone.
So how long are you going to Africa for, Bob?
20 days.
All I can think about is you telling everybody where you hide in the wood because you think you're going to get eaten by a lion or something.
I wondered about that.
Well, it's just, you buy $700 worth of wood and people want to know where the heck is it? I don't want them to think I'm building a deck out behind my house or something with it. It's all down the
Listen.
treatment plant.
If you were building a deck behind your house, everybody and their brother would be calling us and complaining about it.
Yep.
Oh, I see you now. You've become familiar with where I live.
Have a
Good
great
night,
night,
everyone.
everybody.
All right,
Thank
night.
you.
Cheers.
All right, have a good night.